Good Thursday morning. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone. I'm Matt McMaster.
You are.
Joined by Jimmy Chavez. No Gary Sharp today. We'll see Gary tomorrow for a little bit. He'll pop in. Omaha Mavericks on the road again in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Going to play, as we found out yesterday, Mr. Jimmy, they're going to play the Kansas City Monarchs after they defeated Oral Roberts yesterday. Mavericks just 3 wins away from going to their first ever NCAA tournament in the city. I believe that game is a 5 o'clock tip, 6 o'clock tip, and I think it's 5:30 on 1180, if I'm not mistaken. We'll find that out.
At least it's not late.
No, thank God. I will actually, we're going to be watching that game. Here's the thing. This is such a great story, and this is one of those sports things where, yes, there is that, there definitely is a rivalry between Creighton and Nebraska. There definitely is the conversation of J-Skurs versus non-J Skurs, and I think part of it is serious, and part of it at times can be a little bit joking or whatnot. At the same time, though, we all can come together, Jimmy. We all can hold a hand, sit around a fire, and sing Kumbaya and root for the Omaha Mavericks, as it is one of the not only just better stories.
You mean there's not people rooting against them? Like, no, they can't win.
Against them?
Exactly.
Who would be rooting against
It's a feel-good
Omaha?
story.
It is a feel-good story.
We need good stories.
We're talking about, first off, if you haven't listened to the Chris Crutchfield interview yesterday that we did on this show, you should go back to it and listen to it wherever you get your podcast. It was on the 8:30 mark. Or 8:15 mark is when we had him on. How can you not like that guy? I mean,
he's easy to root for.
He's easy to root for.
He's a good man.
Exactly.
Good coach.
Talking to him about the Jayshawn Glover story, about Jayshawn, how he had blood clots, and he literally stood still. He said that he stood still in a parking lot for 15 minutes and had tears in his eyes because he was so worried that one of his players may never, they didn't really, it's a scary situation. It's a scary, scary situation to carry someone like that.
Wait, could that have happened? Yes, that's exactly what we're talking
about.
That's what could have happened.
Exactly. And so
that adds a little context to the season.
Absolutely. And so when you have a coach like that.
So you're rooting for him yet?
Yeah. Like, have a coach like that who's cultivated a family culture, and you go and watch these guys play, and it's very clear that they all love each other. They all like each other. They all want to win for each other. And so, yeah, how can you not root for that team?
And they want to come back. Everybody, they want to be part of his program.
Another thing, too.
Hell, I want to be part of his program, not just because I'd like to be 21 again.
They lose Frankie Fiddler. They're picked 8th to finish in the Summit League.
Mm-hmm.
And
Frankie's having fun at Michigan State, but he misses his friends. He knows he misses Crutch and is so happy for them and what they're doing. And
they were counted out. Mm-hmm. They came together. It was a bunch of guys who last year had to depend a lot on one player. They've all gotten better. They've all stepped up. They're a damn good basketball team. That makes sense. And they're 3 wins away from accomplishing one of the best things that athletic department can ever accomplish, and that's throwing a basketball team in the NCAA tournament. And we've talked ad nauseum the effects it can have, and putting yourself on a national stage like that, and the exposure it can give you, and the fact that attendance and admissions go up when that happens, and they have a chance for
Omaha.
It's great for Omaha.
Not just a school; it's good for Omaha, the city.
So they played tonight, 6 o'clock against Kansas City. It's tough, though, in the Summit League. In one of those sports cliches is one of the hardest things to do is to beat a team 3 times. They're going to have to do that.
We've seen that.
Tonight.
Both of us in football.
Exactly. Too many times.
Playoff games. Like, come on. You beat them in the regular season. You get in the play. Anyway.
It's tough. And that's the one thing about the Summit League. You got to play everybody twice. Everybody knows who's coming at you. Teams know that Markel Sutton is going to dominate in the paint. They know the athleticism of Cam Thomas.
They know what stuff you're running. You know what stuff they're running.
Exactly. They know what they're trying to do. They know your rotations. This is why you get those upsets in these, mid-major tournaments, and why you see these quote unquote. Now, there's not going to be any bid stealers in the Summit League because it's a one bid league, but just in general, an all encompassing college basketball, situation. This is why you see bid stealers, because these teams in these mid-major conferences are incredibly familiar with one another. So that'll be interesting tonight, 6 o'clock. It was a great night of college basketball. The SEC continues to prove why they're one of the best, or if not one of the best, why they're the best conference.
When you think
in the
SEC,
country.
you think college basketball.
Well,
that's what it is this year.
Oh my God! I mean,
okay.
It was funny. So I was watching the Florida game, the Florida-Alabama game, which Florida won yesterday because they kind of out-Alabama, which was very interesting to see, and I don't think a lot of people saw that coming. We'll get into that in a second. But I was watching that game on the left TV, and on the right TV, I had Maryland versus Michigan. And it is so interesting to watch an SEC game between two of the best teams in the country, and then right on the screen next to it to have a Big Ten game going on by also two very good teams.
Decent teams. So
decent teams.
There are worse Big Ten games you could have been watching.
I mean, it's one of the best Big Ten games or Big Ten matchups you can have this year with Michigan.
You
and
had
Maryland.
good games on the TV.
Good games on the TV.
But what's the difference?
The contrast in style is crazy. I mean, the speed and just the athleticism.
Kind of fun.
And you see Maryland and Michigan, man, when they play, they use all 30 seconds of that shot clock. I mean, it is they milk it down, they get that ball into the post, they run some, action on the opposite side, maybe to get a skip past the 3-point line, maybe induce a one-on-one matchup in the post when you have guys like Julian Reese and Vlad Golden and Danny Wolf and Derek Queen playing on both sides of Michigan and Maryland. That's what they're going to play. And then to see the Nate Oates just get to the basket as quick as possible and put up a shot play on the other screen with Florida and Alabama, it was something. I think that Alabama, watching them play, Jimmy, and watching them play over the last couple of years, I think they're a team that's less conducive to being upset early on in the NCAA tournament. Now,
they get beat later.
They're going to get beat later. They're going to get beat.
But early, they just overwhelm you with dudes.
Their speed, and they just make you play. They're going to make you play Alabama basketball. They're going to make you run up and down the court. They're going to make you try and keep up with their offense. And at the end of the day,
which an underdog can't do in the first weekend.
It can't. It's
maybe hang in for
hard.
a half, and then they're just going to.
But in terms of playing some of these, when they're playing teams that are equal to them in size and length and athleticism, and
that can go toe-to-toe with them,
and that can make shots at the same rate, and who can play with that speed and who can play with that motor, that's what happens when they play Auburn. That's what happens when they play Florida yesterday. It's just one of those things where if you're filling out your brackets, I'm confident in the fact that Alabama is going to be able to get to that Sweet 16, and they'll be able to get to the Elite Eight.
But then it's all about the matchups.
All about the matchups from that point on.
Who steps on the court and we do not fear you. You want to run? Lace them up. Let's run with you. And then you have a game. But a lot of early round games, you'll see, oh, man, maybe we can play zone. Yeah, it's not going to work either. They're just going to run you out.
Still a damn good team. Still a damn good team. So is Florida. Florida's really damn good.
That'd be a 7-game series.
I mean, you're getting to the point where if you told me today, if you put the over-under on Final Four teams from the SEC at 2.5. I'd
be tempted to take the over.
Tempted. If it's at 1.5, I would take
1.5.
1.5 easy. I think watching this season, keeping up with the season, pretty confident that
you could have 4.
No,
I don't think you're going to have 4. But this would be a year. In some ways, in '85, you had 3 Big East teams. So it could be something like that. Now, I would hope we don't have 4. I don't think we'll have 4. I still like Duke to do something. I don't know if they're going to go there, but I like them.
That's one thing about Duke, though. And
if they play to their capability, they can get there.
They have so much talent on that
and it's
team.
More than flag. They have a team.
They do. And Shire is going to good job coaching that team.
Pretty damn good coach, and it's not bad for following Coach K.
It's well, the thing is too is that I think there was some worry of the fact that when Coach K left, were they going to be able to keep up that recruiting chain?
Are they going to become Carolina?
Exactly,
with a fear. And John Shire's like, nope. Keep on going.
We're going to keep getting talent. We're going to keep doing things.
Still Duke.
Bad day yesterday, though, if you were a Nebraska basketball fan. Some bubblicious teams did some bubblicious things. It did exactly what they needed to do. Xavier beat Butler pretty handily. And Oklahoma had a...
Did they win a rare conference game?
What'd you say?
Did they win a rare conference game?
Because
their conference record's terrible.
Dominated Missouri yesterday at home.
No wonder I'm in a good mood.
They were a 4.5-point underdog from buzzer to bell. They just absolutely pummeled the 15th ranked Missouri Tigers. We'll see as it's too early right now to get all these updated. And that's the crappy thing about going on from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. during the March Madness season.
Not the getting up early.
Well,
you
no,
get used to it.
You get used to it.
Wait till summer when the sun's already out when we start. It's not that bad.
I can't wait.
When we were driving to work on ice yesterday, not bad when there's not many cars on. A little bit later, a little more trouble.
This is more of a me and you conversation, but the walk, do you have a garage? Do you have a garage?
We do have a garage.
Okay. So the walk to my car sucks every single day.
Ours is a one car though.
I
park outside.
I have to park outside. The walk to my car, which is about a minute and a half walk,
sucks
every single day. But I do think that I will come in here with a much greater mood day in and day out during the summer.
Oh, yeah.
Where I don't have to walk through a frozen tundra or at least a windy
shorts,
45-degree day.
Morning, sun's coming out.
Dodge looks great, by the way. Shout out the city of Omaha.
Hey, they kicked some ass.
Was able to plug the sun in pretty nicely and melt the snow. And
in their defense,
out there.
I felt bad for them the night before because they couldn't treat the roads because of the rain. It was raining hard. I was driving when it was raining. Then it turns to snow. But then when the blizzard starts, it becomes a safety issue where they're doing the best they can. But they have to take care of themselves, too. So when we were out driving yesterday morning to come in, I was thinking, well, yeah, the roads are a sheet of ice because, hey, they're on it. They're just getting started trying to – they know, hey, we got a couple hours. We got to do our best. And they did. Go driving home, just fine.
It was good today.
It was a nice day.
I got stuck behind a bus, and they got really mad when I tried going to the left lane, and the person to the left of me wasn't driving fast enough. And then I also saw someone almost get into an accident. So Omaha's healing.
All right, we're back.
Omaha is healing.
We are back. It's going to snow again tomorrow. But
the blizzard has subsided. Dodge is okay. But yeah, Oklahoma beat Nebraska yesterday, or beat Missouri yesterday.
Avalanche.
Not great for Nebraska. Xavier also gets a win, so we'll see what that does. Currently, right now in Shelby's USA Today tournament bracket, Nebraska's the final team in.
They are the last one game
team in. They would play Arkansas in Dayton, which
at this point, sign up and take it and run away because at this point you might not get in. So Dayton's looking pretty nice right now.
It also too
looks would just be beautiful this time of the year.
The reaction to if Nebraska were to be the final team in the NCAA tournament, and if they were to go to Dayton and then win. Well, I mean, obviously, the reaction would be very happy. They finally got over the bump. People are just
we celebrate Kent Pavelka.
Are so done. Yeah, they're so tired of this. They're the first. They're the only Power 5 team to not win an NCAA tournament game. So the reaction would be, very happy, and you get the monkey off your back. Wouldn't it? I know we're not going to apologize for winning. It'd feel a little dirty, wouldn't it? I know a lot of people are going to be like, "Nah, don't apologize for winning," and I'm not necessarily apologizing. But at the same time,
you gotta get dirty.
It's just so funny how life works. Where last year was such a likable and well-constructed team.
They can't all be 10s, Matt. Sometimes you got to take 5 2s.
They don't. That doesn't necessarily equal 10.
This season it might.
Take
your 2s. Go to Dayton. Have a good time. And if you win, you get to be in one shiny moment more than likely. KP gets a win. We all wear bow ties.
They were in one shining moment last year. They had Casey. They flashed Casey.
Yeah, but you'd rather have them on when they've won and they're like putting the little thing on the board and they're all dancing and happy. This is if they're dancing and happy when they win. But yes, they were in. But this would be better. This would be more wholesome. This would be happy. That's what I'm going for. Omaha, if they go to Dayton and they win a game, they'd be in. They could possibly be in it. Oh, they'd be in it because if they win the game, they're jumping on a trash can.
Oh yeah,
that's perfect for one shiny moment.
You can just opener. Hear
that would be the ball is tipped
for one shot.
See,
yeah, they have a lot of work to do.
They need to win. They just need to win. They need to play a lot better. Period.
As of right now,
see what happens.
They would be playing Rutgers, I believe. If I'm looking at, I don't know if anything changed yesterday.
Right. And they would be on the clock, which means they're on the that last 4. Hey, but so be it.
Actually, I think they'd be playing Northwestern. Which would funny enough. I don't know. I have to. Yesterday, before the results of what the results were, it was them playing Rutgers. So I'll have to double check. But I'm pretty sure they'd be playing Northwestern, and more than likely,
Ace Bailey.
They would be playing either Wisconsin or Purdue in the next round if they were to win that. Look, if they end up winning against Iowa and they end up winning 2 games, you're sitting on the edge of your seat on Selection Sunday.
Well, you're being a good team in
hoping
the second
and
game,
praying.
So that helps.
And we're not during the weekend, and we'll get into it tomorrow, but it will definitely be a start paying attention to these smaller mid-major
root for the favorites.
Yes, because bid Steelers are going to come into play. And at this point, last year we had 5 bid stealers. Now, one of them was Oregon in the Pac-12. That conference no longer exists.
That's how you stop that.
So, maybe the max this year might be 4. Still, if 4 bid stealers turn out to be the case this year, there are going to be a lot of teams who are in these Power 5 conferences.
Look at the Summit. If somebody wins it other than Omaha or St. Thomas, there's a bid stealer.
No. Well, no. So bid stealers is that
the Summit's a 1 bid league, though.
No. So bid stealers is you have a team that in a league that would get a at-large bid no matter what, even if they were to lose their tournament. So even if they won their tournament, they're in, no bid stealer. But if they, like VCU is probably in. If they lose their tournament, that means that one team from their conference who's not supposed to be in ends up getting a bid, which makes their conference a 2-bid league.
Root for favorites.
1-bid league. Root for your favorites.
Root for the high seeds. 1 through 4.
High seeds.
Until
Nebraska
you get your conference.
But regardless, if they're able to win 2 conference games, that'll be good. If they're able to win 2 conference tournament games, that might be enough, barring any bid stealers. If they win 3, I think they're in. That is a massive undertaking. And like I said, to win 2 games in the conference tournament, you're going to have to play some pretty damn good teams. So we'll see. We'll talk about Nebraska basketball later in the show. I'm confused about net rankings. I don't understand them. I've had very, very smart people talk to me and try to explain to me why net matters and what it is and how it's calculated. I still don't get it, but I have compiled all of these bubble teams, quad 1 wins, quad 2 wins, quad 3 wins.
Okay.
We can go about it in depth and then talk about why Nebraska basketball has been so frustrating to watch this season. We will also have Steven Sipple and Mr. Brian Edwards,
who's already messaged us his picks, so he's ready to go.
BE is on fire.
That's why.
In basketball. And you know who's also on fire? His Florida Gators. So he's probably going to come in here at 9:45 and be an incredibly, incredibly happy camper.
That's why we'll have some 12:30
macro college football talk, as the ACC has basically put a time limit on their existence unless they can turn something around. We'll talk about the importance of that and why their current deal or their latest deal with Clemson and Florida State is mattering so much in terms of the future of college football and when that date is and when you can expect everything to kind of go to what in college sports, because we're getting there, and this ACC deal kind of put a mark on exactly that. We'll talk about the Jays. They have a pretty big game against Butler at the Chi on Saturday at 5 o'clock. It'll be senior day, honoring one of the best players in Creighton basketball history, Ryan Kalkbrenner. Some important Big East news, or at least results yesterday. UConn beat Marquette, which was a really big win for Dan Hurley's squad, especially building confidence heading into the tournament. And if there's one team and one coach and one group of players you don't want to give a ton of confidence going into the NCAA tournament, it's UConn. But they actually now, so if Marquette and Creighton were to be tied in conference, Creighton would have the tiebreaker. If UConn and Creighton were to be tied in conference, as of right now, UConn would have the tiebreaker. Now, UConn is now 1 game behind after beating Marquette yesterday. They play Seton Hall, which for UConn, well,
that'll be a win.
UConn lost to Seton Hall early.
That's why it's going to be a win.
Fair enough.
They're not going to let that happen again.
It's a good way of looking
at
it.
In fact, take the Huskies to cover. There's my gambling advice for the. I don't know what the spread is, but they're going to cover.
Creighton's game. I mean, I guess it does have a little bit of stakes if they were to lose to Butler.
They won't lose
on Saturday.
They're going to play well.
Yeah,
they're play well for 11.
That 8-9 mark. We'll talk about Creighton. The importance of I don't think people are talking enough about how this team winning the Big East Conference tournament would be not just like, all right, Creighton gets to hang a banner and Kalkbrenner gets that title.
I think Mac's not getting enough credit. I'm not talking about here. I'm talking about elsewhere, because the job he's done to adjust, and then on the fly after Pop Isaac's injury to adjust again, and yet here the Jays just ho-hum when they have a quote-unquote down year. They could be a 7 or 8, and then they start ramping it up again, and then they have a high seed like last year, and the year before they were 6, but they were a really good 6. And he just death taxes and Greg McDermott. But it's what it's been for Creighton. Just with the team and the talent that they assemble, it's no surprise.
Death taxes and Greg McDermott just being a damn good ball coach. And just some of these, you follow these Twitter accounts that have film breakdown, and pretty consistently you just see incredible motions and sets from Creighton, and just their ability to get guys open basically anywhere on the court. And Ryan Kalkbrenner should be the Big East Player of the Year, and it will be a damn shame.
Put it to you this way. Not. After watching that 49-46 game last Monday, I was ready to watch the next Creighton game just because it's an easier watch. It's more fluid. I'm not saying I'm choosing one or the other. I needed a good basketball game to cleanse me after.
That is the best way of putting it. Even when Creighton isn't hitting their shots, it is a much more palpable.
Yeah. You never say, "Man, that Creighton game is boring."
It is easier to swallow let's just say the product that Creighton puts on the plate for people to watch, as opposed to Nebraska basketball. Apples to oranges, though. At that point, we'll talk about Creighton. We'll talk about the importance of them winning the Big East tournament, not just for legacy and banners. No, look, you got to be a 7 seed in this tournament. We've said it over and over again. These 1 seeds are legit. Have some women's basketball. Nebraska women's basketball beat Rutgers yesterday. That was a really big win for the program. Heading into that game, they were one of the last 4 buys in the latest ESPN bracketology. They play Illinois later today. It'll be one of those things where, if they lose to Illinois, not the end of the world, barring any crazy, circumstances they're probably in. You would love to win that game, though, to lock yourself in the tournament. But winning's more fun than losing. Women's skate basketball or girls skate basketball is going on. Had some games yesterday. NFL news everywhere. Joe Thuney's now a Bear.
My team still sucks.
Saquon Barkley is staying with the Eagles. Nick Bond is staying with the Eagles. Max Crosby just signed the richest deal for a non-quarterback in NFL history yesterday. NFL is going to be shaken up. We'll get into a little bit of that. Just loaded. Have a little bit of Husker football. Just dive in a little bit more about what Mike Eckler, Terry Braden, and Addison Williams all talked about, and just the different personalities on that Nebraska coaching staff. You got a lot to look forward to today. Stick with us. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Gary and Matt here on 1620 The Zone.
Hey, this week 1620 The Zone is teaming up with SiteOne Brewing. I've been there for the half-off deal. SiteOne Brewing is a local brewery. Many that listen know this, that creates a unique experience with their tap house where you can explore a variety of ever-changing locally crafted beers. This sounds delicious. It's located at 2566 Farnham here in Omaha. You get $50 in gift vouchers for only $25 this Friday, tomorrow, 9 a.m. at 1620thezone.com. That's a damn good deal. You can also listen to the afternoon show this week, all week, to win $50 in gift vouchers for free. You know they love beer, and you know they would never steer you wrong. So let them guide you to delicious liquidy goodness.
Beer.
Yeah.
That's what people will be having before Nebraska's basketball game against Iowa. Hey, do you think 11:30 tip, Iowa at Nebraska on Sunday, will be an incredibly important
morning, by the way, since we complain about times on the show, myself included, 11:30 a.m.
Yes, 11:30 a.m. Are you a fan of an 11:30 a.m. basketball tip?
Not really, unless I'm covering it, calling it, or that's different. But as a fan, I'm not going to say I want 8 o'clock, but for a game of this magnitude, now I know I'd like to think they'll be ready to go in Lincoln on Sunday. It's going to be a gorgeous day, 50 degrees, sunny, great day to get out. And you can have a few beverages after in the various establishments that Matt tells you to go, because he's our man on the streets there.
I will be there.
See?
I will be there.
So, and I don't blame you. I would be too. But 11:30, yeah. The version of me now is okay with them, but I'm trying to put myself maybe in the version of you. No, I wouldn't have liked it. And it's like, well, you got to have an afternoon game. 1, 2:30, 3, sure. And it's nothing to do with the fact that, I want to stay in bed. I want to take in the whole day.
As a viewer. So if I'm watching it on television, I hate it.
Okay.
Because I like to sleep in on
the
weekend.
No, you should.
Right? So I wake up at 10 o'clock, and I like to get my bearings, and I like to get recovered, and I like to triple S, and I like to have my breakfast and whatever.
Which is, hey, that's normal. That's good.
And then all of a sudden, it's 11:30, and I have to watch Nebraska basketball play.
You still might be finishing breakfast.
And it's just, you know what? Maybe I would wake up and be happy to watch Alabama or Tennessee or Houston or Iowa State.
But if you're
early
sleepy
in the morning,
and you didn't get to sleep in and you're going to go watch,
now I got to, Nebraska basketball, that's a different conversation in terms of how happy I'm going to be watching them at 11 o'clock in the morning.
So then
considering the fact, too, that, I live and die with these games.
The counter argument is at least you get it over with.
Well, that's another thing.
Which sucks.
I disagree, because it's not about getting over with it. It's about the fact that I'm going to be mad the rest of the day. And I'm going to be upset. That's happened now twice. Once with Michigan State, where they got absolutely bludgeoned. Another time with Purdue, where they got absolutely bludgeoned. And Wisconsin, where they got absolutely bludgeoned.
Yeah, so they didn't show up then either.
They didn't show up for any 3 of those games.
So show up Sunday, otherwise your season's over.
Well, the hope is that what happened to Nebraska, them just, having sea legs and not being ready to play, an 11 a.m. basketball game on the home, or away rather, will set in and be an advantage for Nebraska. I said earlier in the show, I don't know how net works, okay? I really don't. It's one of those things where we put a lot of stock into it, and it's got all these metrics and wins and losses and so on and so forth, and we just kind of believe the number that gets pooped out of the computer, and we just kind of have to go with it and say, all right, this is our metric. This is what we're rocking with. The committee cares about it, so it means a lot, and then we just kind of start deducing everything off of that. I'll say this, though, and I think this is the perfect microcosm of what Nebraska's season has been. There are currently 8 teams, and, I use Bracket Matrix. It's a bracket website that kind of combines all of the different brackets that are out there.
This is the one you talked about, right?
Yes.
So you got to check this out.
Puts it in all the centralized locations, so it gives you, it tracks over 118 brackets, and then it has the average amount of seeds. So Nebraska right now in Bracket Matrix is, once again, the very last team in. They're in 59 brackets out of 118 at this point. And so the teams that they're competing against are Ohio State, Arkansas, Indiana, VCU in the 11 seeds, and then Georgia, San Diego State, West Virginia, and Baylor in the 10 seeds. Okay. I know that's a lot of teams to keep up with. Don't worry about it. Here's the point. When you look at Nebraska's quad one wins, right? They're very competitive with all these teams. They have more quad one wins than San Diego State, Georgia, VCU, Indiana, Oklahoma, and Xavier, who some of those teams are ranked higher than them. Some of those teams they are competing directly with. They have more quad wins than those teams, right? And when you look at their quad one wins and quad two wins combined, or their quad one and quad two records combined, Nebraska is 9-11. They are comparable with every single one of these teams on the 10-11 line as well. They have similar top-of-the-line resumes with the teams that they're competing with to get in the NCAA tournament. Here's the biggest problem. They have 2 quad 3 losses. No other team in that bubble of teams that are trying to make the NCAA tournament on the 10-11 line have 2 quad 3 losses. There's only 2 teams, San Diego State and Oklahoma, that have 1 quad 3 loss. All those other teams, West Virginia, Georgia, VCU, Indiana, Arkansas, Ohio State, and Xavier, none of them have quad 3 losses. None of them have gone out and lost one game where they absolutely should not have dropped it. Nebraska has. And I think that has been the most frustrating part of this season. And those numbers kind of put they put numbers onto a piece of paper that we already know, Jimmy. That this team, when they are high, when they are playing their best, they can beat just about anybody. They can compete with any team in the Big Ten, and frankly, at times, any team in the country. Look at what they beat Creighton on the road. With what Creighton has accomplished this season, Creighton's a damn good team. To come to Omaha, to come to the Chi, and
on a Friday night, so the crowd was lit that night.
To win that game, they proved that, hey, this team can not only travel within the Big Ten, but nationally. But at the same time, it just comes down to the fact that, the bottom is so low. And yes, we have talked over and over and over again about the poor roster construction and that maybe just this team isn't that talented. Maybe this team just isn't as good as we think it is. But the fact that some of these losses and the circumstances that have put them in the position that they're in really just comes down to, hey, are they giving effort tonight? Hey, are they locked in tonight? Hey,
these should not be questions you should be asking ever.
And these are not questions that we should be asking in January and then continuing to have the conversation about in March. It just is.
I think if you're asking those questions in March, that kind of answers a lot of questions for you.
And yet, because this bubble is so weak this year, and
you still might get in.
You still might get in.
Just win.
I mean, it's absolutely ass backwards.
Yeah. Andrew's, we have a couple calls on the line, but my point, that's not my point, but Andrew wanted me to pass this along, a little bit of breaking news. He saw it there. There apparently is a significant accident, 156th and Blondo.
Okay, good.
So if you're fixing to leave and that's part of your travel, maybe you want to think about going somewhere else. So, I mean, he did call wanting to talk about sports, but he just wanted to let people know, hey,
Doug, and we got Andrew on the line.
So
we boys wait.
We always appreciate.
I'm making my Nebraska basketball points, and then we'll get you in here at the end of the segment because it's always entertaining.
We always do appreciate when you guys let us know what's going on there, especially this time of the year.
So what'd you say? 156th
156th and Blondo.
Okay, good. We're doing the traffic.
I know exactly where
I'm sure. Who's on the traffic today? Is it Joey Colbert or is it Peter Krenzer?
It's Thursday.
It is a Thursday.
I think it's Peter.
Peterman.
Which is sad because we literally just heard the traffic, but we have such short-term memories. We're like gnats here. We're just
like goldfish.
Yeah.
We're a goldfish radio show.
Yeah,
that's what we are.
Nice. We have a logo now.
We have a logo. This is a goldfish radio. We had just a lot of small memories. Don't remember a lot. We move on. You know what? We win games, we forget about them. We lose games, we forget about them. We go on to the next contest, and we try and make the tourney. And that's what Nebraska's going to do because they're going to have to forget about the last 4 contests that they've played. Which were absolutely disgusting and absolutely awful. At least the Ohio State game, it looked like basketball and it was competitive. But the 3 other ones, I mean, we already know the story. But despite all of that, it's just they are a couple of bounces and a couple of breaks and a couple of really good efforts and intense defensive efforts and finding their identity and being locked in from maybe making the tournament. It's just so frustrating when it just comes down to effort because at the end of the day, you would think that's the standard. We're also, too, Jimmy, we're paying these guys now. These guys are getting paid. It's their job.
This is true.
That's another combo you have to have. Maybe sometimes we used to pull back a little bit on the criticism that we would give college athletes because at the end of the day, they were amateurs. They were just students. They were just 18, 19, 20-year-old.
But now they make money than you and me, a lot of people that are listening, so we're not going to feel sorry for them.
It's just one of those, well, I won't feel sorry for them when it's one of those effort things. When it's one of those, well, why didn't you win? Well, it's because you weren't mentally prepared. It's because you weren't mentally ready to go. Because now we can say the sentence,
well, we're paying you.
Exactly. So it's that's a conversation, an evolving conversation that we will get through once, college sports continues to evolve and these guys continue to make a lot of money. But another point is, too, a lot of these guys aren't 18, 19-year-old people anymore. They're 22, 23, 24-year-old. Some are legitimate grown men with kids.
Morning, Stephen Ashworth.
Exactly.
Hell of a guy.
Hope everything is going well.
Yeah. Guys, celebrate him on this weekend, too.
Absolutely.
Not just 11. That's a great man.
Stephen Ashworth is awesome. Mm-hmm. And he has been such an incredible complimentary piece. We'll get into Creighton basketball in a little bit. And speaking about Creighton basketball, we'll bring in our very good friend, Andrew. Drew.
Hello, guys.
How are you?
I'm glad you brought up a point that they get paid.
Thank you.
The old rah-rah, the effort was good, but you're getting paid.
Yeah.
You should have all-out effort every game.
Absolutely. And
look at Xavier. Look at Xavier when they needed to. They needed wins, and they've been playing. I don't know if you've watched them, but
I saw them yesterday
with their hair on fire.
Yeah. I mean, and they were playing with their hair on fire against Creighton as well in a game they absolutely needed to win. Yeah, you're right.
Why do you guys, you Nebraska fans, put up with the crap that Hoiberg gives you? He first of all, he puts a new team on the court every year.
Yeah.
He has no team chemistry. His players have very low basketball IQ.
I think, Andrew, the first 2 years of the Fred Hoiberg era was him trying to figure out the Big Ten, him trying to battle through the mess that was kind of left for him in years prior, him trying to build a program. And I'm not fully defending 2 back-to-back 7-win seasons, but I definitely think that you can point to some internal and external factors that led to those disappointing results. In his third year, though, when they won 10 games, and that was a tough year. And then in his fourth year, it seemed like he figured it out. And what I mean by figured it out, Andrew, is that he figured out that he needs to have a physical, defensive Big Ten basketball team. And Sam Griesel and Emmanuel Bandamel are 2 guys that he still, this season, brings up, even though they haven't played for him in 2 years, because those guys set the culture of what he wanted the Nebraska basketball program to be. And then last year, you go into, all right, we're taking that culture, we're relaying it into momentum, we're relaying it into the transfer portal, we're going to have a better team this year, and they had a magical year. The problem is, Andrew, is that they just brought in guys this season that didn't develop, weren't great basketball players, but then clearly didn't fit into the culture.
He doesn't develop anyone.
He developed Casey, and Bryce Williams is one hell of a player now, and he wasn't the same player when he came in to Charlotte came in from Charlotte.
Offensively gifted.
Yes, but he is. I mean, look, he came in last year. He was not an all Big Ten first team guy. This year he is.
He's developed into an alpha. Nebraska fan.
Well, Andrew, I'm not making. You said he didn't develop any. Wait. You can't tell me that he doesn't develop anybody. And then when I bring up a guy who came from a non-Power 5 conference making the all Big Ten team, you can't then say you're making excuses. You just said they're not developing anybody. I brought 2 guys who came from lower programs who then developed into good players. And I didn't
two guys in 5 years.
Okay, well you didn't let me continue. I mean, his son, Sam Hoiberg, has developed into quite a good basketball player who plays 35 minutes a game.
God, come on.
Look, I'm just telling you right now that this season, in terms of, I don't know why you put up with this crap. I think this year has been an absolute misfire in terms of what they were trying to do in terms of a tournament build.
No,
I'm not smoking anything. You said why you put up his crap.
Yeah, because I'd ask for some
I
too.
told you literally the timeline of Nebraska basketball of him believing he figured things out. And this year he absolutely missed the mark in the transfer portal and his sustainability model. And it might lead to him. It very well could lead to him losing his job. It very well could lead to that. I mean, we don't know, but it could. Him missing the mark this year in the transfer portal. But in terms of,
they were smart, they would fire him.
Yeah, I mean, I think the debate is out right now, and this 4-game losing streak definitely has spurred that conversation. I think rightfully so. When you have a easier schedule down the stretch, and you got to win these games to make the NCAA tournament, and then your team's going to show up, and then you're looking at all the past non-success he's had. It definitely does become a conversation. So I don't think you're completely off, but at the same time, there are some. You have to admit there are some good things that Fred Hoiberg has done as a Nebraska basketball coach.
There's nothing good about Fred Hoiberg.
I don't think. I don't know about that. But hey,
and I'll tell you what. Why don't you get some high school kids in?
Well, that's another thing. I don't think Fred doesn't care. I don't think Fred is worried about that. I think Fred is just more worried about bringing in older guys and having them play right away. I think that's just kind of
you guys got a pot of poo.
Yeah. Well,
it's not good when you. I mean, and look at this. Look at Kalkbrenner. Look at all the guys that Creighton have developed.
No, you're right.
You should.
You're right.
As a Nebraska fan, go after DeBreeze or Hutt.
Yeah, well, we'll see what they do, and I agree with you in that regard. I don't think they'll be able to have a sustainable program until they're able to consistently build, pillars within high school. But we'll see if whatever the future may hold. Andrew, we got to get the old man Doug. It's been a good combo.
Why do you get mad?
What?
Oh, God, you're crazy.
I'm not crazy.
Why do you get mad? Nebraska basketball.
I'm not getting mad. I'm not getting mad at all. We had a good combo.
Said you get mad after every loss.
I do, because I care about my team. Thank you, Andrew. You get mad after Creighton losses. Hopefully they don't lose Saturday against Boulder.
I just take it as Matt gets mad for the same reason we get mad when our teams lose. He just wants his team to win.
I want my team to win. One guy who's seen his team win plenty this year is old man Doug. Doug, how you doing, my man?
Well, good morning. I was getting a good chuckle out of that Andrew's call, which I would say about 85% of it was right.
It's pretty good.
If I'm answering the question, Fred's got a good personality. If he had Fran McCaffrey's personality,
oh my God, he'd be gone in an instant. Gone already. Yes, great point.
Yeah, I think he, he's still trying that Iowa State model, not as much as he did. He got rid of Abdel Nassi or whatever the guy's name was.
Matt Abdel Nassi. Yeah,
they could use George Niang.
He's a nice guy. You don't dislike him. He doesn't talk, crap about other teams or coaches or something like that. So, I mean, he's a likable guy, and that does help you if the results aren't probably what they should be. And I don't buy that they don't invest money in the basketball program. I don't buy that at all. I
think they do and they don't. It's a little hit or miss. I mean, they have invested some big bucks in guys, but I think this year is really just come down to, Doug, they invested the wrong bucks in the wrong guys. And like I said, it could lead to, I mean, it already is leading to massive questions of Fred Hoiberg's job validity with Nebraska.
There you go. Well, that wasn't the reason for my call.
Sure, yeah. Go ahead.
But first of all, good luck to UNO. I really am hoping for a really good tournament run there. The nice part is they have two ways to get in. If what is it called? St. Thomas wins, go. And then happy haircut to Jimmy. Nice haircut.
Oh,
did you get a haircut
last week? I didn't even realize that. Yeah. Thank you, Doug. You're the best.
I didn't even realize that.
I don't know. Sometimes, the way he styled his hair today looks really good. Handsome guy. But here's my criticisms of my
still have a few bullets left in this
college basketball team.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
In order of, and I think Mac is a great coach.
Yeah,
but they've got some warts, and here's their warts that they got to. If they clean up, I think they can play, and on the right night they can beat a 1 or a 2 seed. Turnovers. I love Ashworth, but he makes a lot of dumb, hurried passes that as the season has gone on, the other teams have caught on to, and so that's a concern. And then I was going to say this is number 3 on my concern list, but it relates to the turnovers. I think sometimes we force the ball into Kalkbrenner too much at times, and the other teams are just collapsing like crazy on him, and we've missed a few lob passes that earlier on. Again, everyone has film on each other now, so
yeah.
And then in this last game, now I listen most of the day if I'm not in meetings or if I'm in the car out and about, whatever. But like John Bishop they were saying, instead of letting it fly, let it make. I did not think Creighton played well against Seton Hall, and yeah, they shot a really good percentage, but they had a ton of turnovers. And here's the thing, and they used to do this under Dana Altman, and it drove me nuts. Is they run that shot clock down, and then they pass it to the guy that's not a shot creator.
Yeah.
And they did that several times against Seton Hall. And where's the coaches on the bench? Like, they got to have some kind of signal because you're playing. And Seton Hall wasn't that loud. Heck, there was 1,500 people there.
Yeah,
I'm surprised we couldn't hear Bishop on the TV broadcast.
I know.
I mean, it was obvious. We're down to 5 seconds, and people weren't prepared to shoot the ball, and then we forced up. And the shots we did miss were ones that were like, oh crap, it's 1 second on the shot clock. I'm going to heave something up, and they missed every one of those.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 things that I see right now. If they clean up, their defense is better. Actually, watch McAndrews. His defense is really pretty good.
He's so long. He is long, and he's got the potential to be a really, really good defender in the Big East.
But they're going to take care of business against. There's no way this team is going to let Kalkbrenner and Ashworth, is almost as important, lose on senior night.
Oh no.
That's why I think they'll play very well.
That's my. I will just say for the record, I do not like 68 team. It should be 64.
Yeah.
And this year is and in fact, they talked about expanding it this year. And this year is the poster child for not expanding.
Yeah.
I mean, totally Oklahoma, I do think Xavier is a much better team than Nebraska. Sure. Nebraska beat Creighton. I get it. That doesn't mean you're better.
Both did.
That's like us saying we're better than Kansas, right, Jimmy? That doesn't
work.
You might. I don't know about this year, Doug.
I think you are better than Kansas. I get what you're saying. It's a good call. Hey, Doug, appreciate the call. We got to get to break, but I appreciate you. That was a good one. Hey, number 1 seed Doug. Always coming to make a good call. Was that John Walker or was that old man Doug?
64 teams. Yeah, while we're at it, why don't we make these conferences regionally based? I got an idea for Nebraska. It's an 18 league of Midwest schools you can drive to, go to road games. Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah, it always comes back to going back to the Big 8. Really? I mean,
it was fun.
It was fun.
You would have liked it, Matt. We would have gone to all the road games.
We got a couple good emails, so we'll get to them in the next break. We'll continue our conversation with Nebraska basketball and then head into a little bit of Creighton. And then later in the show, we'll talk some ACC football and the effects it might have on college football in general and college sports. We'll talk a little bit of NFL. Got some high school basketball. Nebraska women's basketball is back in action tonight. And we got Steve Sipple and Brian Edwards coming up at 9:15, 9:45. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. What is it? Third down right now? I mean,
yeah, I like you thinking the same type of stuff. That's not why I played it, but yeah, third down. Wait a minute. I see what you're getting at. I do like when the Northwestern band plays that.
Up there, I don't know, it's third down. They're screaming at you. They're telling you it's third down. You gotta,
should they get play this in Lincoln
right here,
on third down?
Right here. This was me in the student section not too long ago. Right there.
Mine was usually a middle finger, but that wasn't at my team. It was at the opponent.
It was at Missouri. It's always at Missouri.
No, it's at your opponent. Every opponent's your most hated rival. You hate everybody equally.
We always joke about how, everything always comes back to Nebraska or Northwestern basketball with me. Everything always comes back to Missouri and your hatred of them for you.
That's what I was taught.
It just always circles back to why you hate the Tigers.
Part of student orientation. whole 9 yards. Still hate math. That has nothing to do with anything. Just want to throw that out there.
Is this the best third down song? Was that the best third down song?
For whom the bell tolls, it's up there. I'm always open to listening to everybody's. What is your third down song?
What is your third down song?
You need to stop, and it's 3rd and 5. What are you doing that's getting you going? I should ask you, Matt McMaster.
The one people are going to clown me for not knowing the name of it.
I'll help you.
It's the
that's Down with the Sickness by Disturbed.
Yes, that is my favorite third down song. Hell's Bells is pretty good too.
Song on the album.
Hell's Bells is pretty good.
Hell's Bells is nice. Trevor Hoffman agrees.
But I think Hell's Bells is one of those ones where it's like, I feel like you got to be coming out of a timeout almost with Hell's Bells.
Yeah.
You can't just play it off the rip. Like it's got to be
maybe going to the fourth quarter.
Maybe
after you do your whatever you do between the third and fourth quarter, but you got to get them.
Like you got to have a third down though. Like you got to have a third down.
Okay.
Now, I think the best out of timeout song for basketball and football is Joker and the Thief. I think it's
a great
like
album too.
Anytime you are like it's under 2 minutes or under 3 minutes and the game is within 4 points or closer.
I guess it's one of the few good things Scott Frost did at Nebraska because that was a good incorporation. Sounded good on the loudspeakers.
I like Joker and the Thief.
Yeah.
And like you all hear it and then like you kind of start jumping up and down and everything like that. And it's got like a long enough lead in where you're getting excited, but then like the payoff is good. Like it gets to the payoff quick enough for you to be like, yes, let's go.
And you play it when you need the crowd to, hey, we need you right now. Come on.
Exactly.
Get up.
No, I think people understand the assignment.
Yeah.
I like Sandstorm too. That's not bad.
Who doesn't love some Sandstorm?
I like some Sandstorm.
Romantic song.
That's it. Let me know what's. I'd love to find out what people. Doesn't that say
what
a
is
lot
your
about
third
your
down song? Yeah.
Isn't when Gary was talking about hey start button or turnkey? I feel like that's another great one. What's your favorite third down song? It's 3rd down and 8. Your team needs to stop. What do you want the stadium to play? You're coming out of a timeout. Yeah. You need a goal here. You pulled the goalie. What's your song? Coming out of a timeout. You need a 3-pointer right now. You're down 2. What's your song? It says a lot about it. It says a lot about a man. It says a lot about a woman.
That could be thrown in there. It's got to be a rotation. It can't be
I feel like that's a good first half.
Okay. But you're talking about second half. You guys got to get off the damn
like
field.
End of the game.
Get off the field.
Master of Puppets is a good, like any Metallica song gets anybody going. I think that one, though, is a really good, like, hey, bring your own juice. Like, it's an 11 a.m.
Except Unforgiven. Tip. That's just too soft.
Yeah, maybe. But, like, I think that's Master of Puppets is one of those, like, hey, we need a little bit more energy in this first half. The other team is starting to make a run. Let's play this song so people get more into it. But, no, we had, first off, first hour is done. If you missed any of the first hour, go back and listen to it on the Gary and Matt podcast page.
Missed Andrew?
We had... Andrew called in. Doug called in. We basically had a whole segment with the 2 number 1 seeds of our 1620 The Zone, Gary and Matt caller bracket that we are creating. If you email us, if you text us,
anybody who corresponds with the show,
we'll have a ranking, and then sometime in the summer we will put the bracket together and we will have everybody
because we need content.
We always. Oh my god!
When we get into that lull after CWS, when you're itching for football, but you're not just quite there yet, but you latch onto the BTN's replay of some random Michigan State Iowa game from 1990, and you're like, I don't care about either one of these teams, but you know what? I remember Hayden Fry dude could rock a pair of aviators like nobody's business. I'm going to sit down and watch this game. I remember it. But when we're in that mode, that's usually when we go to these topics. Your walk-up songs, your third downs.
Yeah.
It's great. I embrace that time of year because you have to. Because as soon as we get past that, it's time.
You think we're insufferable now. Wait till we start going through this ESPN top 100 lists that make absolutely no sense.
Which is funny because they got LeBron 1 through 100. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. They got him 1 through 50. Mahomes is 51 through 100, or vice versa. Shame on me.
We can't act as if ESPN doesn't still ride the coattails of Michael Jordan. All right, we still have a lot of people on that. Oh yeah, LeBron James won Western Conference Player of the Month, and no one was talking about it. I mean, the guy is 40, averaging like 30 points a game,
which
10 rebounds and 6 assists. I mean, he is literally one of the best skate players. Why do I keep getting? What is happening? That's been established.
I'll add that on. Get the studio camera in there because as much as I like me some me, we don't need me on the whole screen. No.
Hey, we go to the Equitable Bank inbox at Equitable Bank. They take banking personally. Joey writes in, Andrew is off base again. Everything you said, Matt, about the first 2 years is correct. Fred, first of all, has the guys he has based on lack of NIL in the program, something I know firsthand. I also know they try to get high school kids, especially locally, but haven't been able to get them. Second, if you want to talk about lack of talent, then how did he get them close to the tournament with this lack of talent? That's coaching. And if Andrew wants to talk about putting up with Creighton fans, or if Andrew wants to talk about putting up with something, it sure is odd how Andrew and all the Creighton fans conveniently forgot about Mac's comments a few years ago. Yeah, those it is what it is. You know.
We're just talking about basketball.
Yeah,
I just like arguing about basketball.
We moved on. But anyway, back to the comments about Fred in the first 2 years.
Point is, Fred needs better players. He needs George Niang. He needs that Iowa State team from 14. There, Matt. Continue.
He definitely was trying to figure out what the program was going to be, how he was going to navigate through it, how he was going to build Nebraska into a basketball program those first 3 years, really, of his tenure. And he did recruit a lot of high school guys. He went out, he used the portal, he did a mix of both, and I think he quickly found out after 24 wins in 3 seasons that way of building Nebraska basketball was not going to work. And so what did he do? He pivoted in year 4. He went out, he got Sam Griesel, he got Emmanuel Bandabel, he doubled down on Jawan Gary, from, who's a transfer from Alabama, who he has developed into a very, very, very good player. And in that moment, and by the way, that season, like Fred was on the hot seat in his 4th year. Like when they lost Gary and they had to bring in Sam Hoiberg to play some minutes, not because they needed to spark off the bench, just because of pure numbers and necessity. It was the seat was warming up a bit. It was getting a little bit uncomfortable. And he was coaching. Maybe, his job was on the line. Maybe it wasn't, but he coached one hell of a team that year, and it led to a 500 season, him getting his job back. And then he doubled down on the portal the next year when he went out and he got Rink Masks, and he went out and he got Bryce Williams, and he put this team together along with developing Jamarcus Lawrence and CJ Wilcher. Bryce turned out really good. He went out, he got Josiah Alec, who was a great addition to that roster, who was a banger down in the paint.
Best hair ever.
Don't
ever cut that.
He had, after last year and after the year before that, he knew that the transfer portal was the way for him to build the program. And he figured that out, and it took him 3 years to do that, and they found success last year. And last year was magical, and last year was fun, and last year was likable. And you know what? They ran into a bad matchup for them in that Texas A&M team and Buzz Williams, and they lost badly. And it was a crappy way for the season to end. And you don't think of that team as fondly because they did not accomplish what they accomplished.
Isn't that funny how that works, though? They win one game, you think of them differently. They lose a tough game where, it's a crapshoot. They could play a 7-game series that goes 7 games, and then you think, yeah. I honestly, I almost forget they made the tournament last year.
Isn't that
which is sad?
Though? That's sad.
It's a likable team.
But the thing is, too, is they lost a lot of those guys. They lost Casey. They lost Jamarcus Lawrence. They lost CJ Wilcher. Rink goes down due to injury, but, you kind of do forget that he's still on the team, and man, would they love to have him right now. But after last season, how could you blame him for going back into the portal? How could you blame him for trying
Everybody does it.
Build the program that way?
What if you hit 100% on your portal and you get the right guys? I mean, it works both ways. So
he went out.
I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, why are you in the portal? Because it's there to use. Everyone else is using it. Why can't you use it?
Well, it's just one of those things, though, where it's like
shop wisely.
He did try and recruit high school guys. Mm-hmm. Now, the whole local guy situation and him not being able to get local recruits, I mean, it's definitely not for a lack of trying. It's not like
sales. Yeah, how can you not sell anything? I can't put a gun to their head and make them buy.
I know. So, and I think it's a fair assessment when the fact that John Tonje is probably going to end up being the runner-up for Big Ten Player of the Year, and he was an Omaha guy. And frankly, Frankie Fiddler is having one hell of a, is playing good basketball with Michigan State, who that team collectively is having one hell of a year. They'll make a deep run in the tournament.
We could adopt them maybe if all the local teams are out. I don't know.
Wake Forest isn't going to make the tournament, but Hunter Salas is going to be a draft pick. And Chucky Hepburn, that's a team in Louisville with Pat Kelsey, who's doing one hell of a job in his first year as coaching there. Like, they are the only other bright spot outside of Duke in the ACC. Like, yeah, I'm not denying the fact that you can look around college basketball and get a little bit disappointed with some of the dudes who came from this area that aren't playing for Nebraska. At the same time, though, they were able to have success last year without those guys. Is it something that you would like to see change as the years go on, if Fred Hoiberg continues to be the head coach of this program? Yeah, but and once again, I think it is a fair criticism, but I don't think it's a pillar for you to argue that he definitely shouldn't keep his job after this year, because you know what? They've been able to have success without those guys, right? But back to the point of the portal. How can you blame him for going back to the portal and building the team the way that he built this team this year, even if your argument is every single year they have a brand new team? Because it worked.
Everybody, look at Florida State football. Some years it works, some years it doesn't. They bought a bunch of players that didn't work. Some years you buy a bunch of players and it works.
This
Everybody's
year,
doing it.
This year they did it again, and it didn't work out. And he absolutely missed the mark. And hey, you know what? He's paying the piper for it. We're on here on the radio, and you look at the Twitter, and you look at the social medias, and you look at YouTube comments, and you look at all of that. The constant conversation is, should Fred Hoiberg keep his job? And some people like Andrew call on the show and say, why does he still have a job? That is the consequence of him not being able to hit on the portal this year. But in terms of the philosophy, right, if we're just talking pure philosophy of why does he build the team this way, he's had success. He did it at Iowa State. He did it here at Nebraska. It took him a little bit to figure it out, but that's how he does it. Now, are we at the point where we can confidently trust Fred Hoiberg now, year in and year out, to go in the portal and grab guys and have a sustainable model of success?
Meaning, do you have faith to build a better team next year?
I think it's absolutely in everybody's right for them to not have a ton of faith in him to be able to do that after this season. At the same time, they made the tournament last year, and he was Big Ten Coach of the Year. And he hit a home run with Bryce Williams, and he did a great job with Rink Mask. And you know what? We talk about some of his best players that he's had in this program, the Keisei Tominagas, the Jawan Garys, the CJ Wilchers. They all came through the portal. The Bryce Williams came through the portal. Wilcher transferred from Xavier. Gary transferred from Alabama. Tominaga transferred from a community college. So I don't think it's necessarily is the philosophy or the model the problem. It's just, do you trust Fred to consistently year in and year out execute that model? I think the question is up now, right? And I'm not willing to make a firm and pat decision at this point. We'll see what happens on Saturday. We'll see what happens. If they lose against Iowa,
Saturday 11:30. For some reason, I thought Sunday. Ooh, that's different.
Or Sunday. Ooh. Sunday. No, it's Sunday. Sorry.
Either way,
Sunday at 11.
Head hurts just thinking about it.
See what happens on Sunday. But it's one of those things where it's a tough discussion to have, and I think there are definitely arguments on both sides of the ball. Debo in the YouTube comments writes in, weird, Creighton is able to get guys like that. But here's the thing, Debo.
It's a great point.
Creighton, it is a good point, but I'll tell you why. Creighton has a program. Creighton has a written model of success. Creighton has year in and year out won, what is it, 14 games in the Big East in the last 3 straight seasons of 14-plus conference wins, right? They've made the tournament how many times? They were one incredibly bad foul call away against San Diego State from making the Final Four. You've had all these great players who've come through this program and who have won with Coach Greg McDermott. It is so easy to look at Creighton and what they've done as a program, the success they've had, and what Coach McDermott has built, to hop onto that and say, yeah, I'm a local guy. Why wouldn't I want to play for Creighton? Why wouldn't I want to play in the CHI Health Center in front of, 15,000 people? Why wouldn't I want to play for a coach who's an absolute proven winner, who's built this program from a Missouri Valley Conference to a Big East Conference? Why wouldn't I want to play for a program that consistently makes the NCAA tournament? That's their selling point. And Greg McDermott has earned that selling point through great coaching. Okay? Fred Hoiberg hasn't accomplished that. Right? And that's the thing that when you're trying to build a program, the success in being able to walk recruits in, walk prospects in and say, hey, look at the banners. Look at what we've accomplished. Look at what we're building here. Come and join us. Nebraska hasn't been able to do that, which is why this season is so disappointing in a way, because you were on the path to doing that. When they started the season 12-2, when they won the Diamond Head Classic, when they beat UCLA, you were trending toward that direction. You were trending toward being able to walk guys in to Pinnacle Bank Arena and say, hey, look at what we're accomplishing. Look at what we're building. You can be a part of that. And then it's a snowball effect. And unfortunately for Fred Hoiberg and this Nebraska basketball program, they failed so terribly in this transfer portal cycle that it's reset them. It's knocked them back. It's lost their momentum, not only just as a team, but as a program in general. It makes it harder. You don't think that prospects and recruits look at what's going on in Lincoln and look at the sometimes lack of effort and look at Fred Hoiberg begging his guys to lock in and play good basketball game in and game out in March? You don't think they look at that and it puts a sour taste in their mouth? It's bad. It's not good. His job's up for question, and it should be. And these next couple of games are going to be absolutely the nail in the coffin of whether or not he should keep his job, because those first 3 years, we've kind of given him a pass a little bit. These last 3 years, it seems like he's trending in the right direction, but Iowa on Sunday in this Big Ten Conference tournament, even if they make the tournament, which still is kind of not surely locked in at this point, is going to be a big factor in deciding that. We'll go to the phone lines. John wants to talk about Fred. Hey, John, what do you got for me?
Hi, guys.
How you doing?
Well, good. I'm doing great.
Great.
Just want to talk about Hoiberg and the rush to judgment. It's
sure.
Kind of funny just because if the world today was like it was in the 70s, Tom Osborne would have been fired in 4 years. He was 0 for 8 against Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. He was coming off a legend. He lost 2 games at home where he was probably a 30-point favorite, Florida State, which then catapulted Florida State later. And they lost to Washington State at home. I mean, he would have been run out at this time. He would have been run out of Memorial Stadium.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, who are we going to get that's better than Fred?
John, I don't like that argument. I don't, and it's a good question. I mean, you can continue, but we can talk about that. But I don't love that argument.
Okay, well, I mean, so who are we going to get better than Hoiberg? He's got character. He's a proven winner. Yeah, you want to bring in a nobody and pay him nothing, and then you'll pay him something in 4 years when it doesn't work. I mean, I'm a Nebraska alum. I'm a Jays season ticket holder. I want both of them to do good. I want UNO to do good, but it's just like it's like the players now. Everybody is I got to play. I got to play now. I'm going to move. You know, it's just nobody is patient. I mean, again, it's the guy's a character and quality person. He doesn't have the right players. Probably he's got, like you said earlier, he's developed some good players. But you know, unfortunately, Nebraska basketball is it is what it is, and it's been that way for 50 years. So anyway, I love the show, guys.
Take
care.
Thank you, John.
Bye-bye.
Hey, John brings up a great point about the Tom Osborne conversation and the fact that, and I totally agree with this. We don't show enough patience at times for certain coaches. And I think there are times where I think it might be right to fire a guy after 2 years or 3 years. I think that's more of a pro conversation than it is a college conversation. But I think most times patience is the key. At the same time, with John, and by the way, they've given Fred Hoiberg 6 years. So we're past the point of patience. Okay. It's 6 years now, right? He's proven what he's proven. You now have to have the discussion. Have we seen the best of this program under Fred Hoiberg? And if you believe that, and the best is one NCAA tournament appearance, as a 9 seed and losing in the first round of the NCAA tournament, if that's the best you think Fred Hoiberg can offer the Nebraska basketball program, he should be fired. Now, if you think that this was a case of just a bad portal cycle, and that you do believe that if the athletic department does believe that there are greener pastures and that this is a model that they can sustain and have success with, then they'll end up keeping him. Now, these next 3 games will determine whether or not that truly is the case, because he really is bordering on, all right, this is your job now. Coach for your job now. And that wasn't the case a week ago. But when you lose 4 games and 3 of them are against some of the worst teams in the Big Ten, that's what happens. That's how your job gets into question. With John's call, and we have Jesse who's on the line, so we're going to get to Jesse in a second. But John saying that, hey, who else are they going to get? I don't like that, because you pigeonhole yourself, and I think that's a really good way of making an excuse for not wanting to make some tough decisions. Okay? Look at what Pat Kelsey's doing in Louisville. Look at what's happening in Vanderbilt. Look what's happening in Wake Forest. Look what's happening in Drake right now. Right? You have these first-year head coaches who are leading their teams to really good seasons, to quick turnarounds, to NCAA tournament berths. I mean, Drake is the D2, the best D2, D1 team in the country. I mean, they brought all their guys from Ben McCollum's previous job, and they're the favorite to win the Missouri Valley Conference, and they might even get an at-large bid doing it. So we've seen with Dusty May in Michigan how quickly things can turn around. So I understand Fred has one hell of a resume, and he's a proven winner at Iowa State, and he struggled with things in Chicago, and that's a whole other different realm of conversation. But
that one's for the podcast.
Yeah, the whole idea of they can't get anyone better. I don't know. Look across college basketball at this point. There's a lot of good coaches who are turning teams around who have some lesser resources.
Well, I always the argument to that is okay, he's not doing it, so calm down. But hypothetically, what if he retires? You still have to do it then.
You still have to do it.
So then, yes, you find out who the guy making the decisions. What can they do?
Exactly.
What's that list of 5? So,
all right, Jesse. He's responding to John's last call. Hey, Jesse, how you doing, my man?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. Thanks for taking my call.
Of course,
man. Husker sports fans across the board, and I'm piggybacking on this last caller.
Yeah,
what he said was not only the who we gonna get, but when he started to describe Hoiberg, one of the first things he said was, he's a good guy. Okay, pause, stop right there. I want you to take a step back, and I know you rattle off some young up and coming guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to take a step back and look at what's happening in Auburn and St. John's.
Yeah.
And really think about what happened there.
Yeah.
Back when they hired Miles, Bruce Pearl, somebody brought up Bruce Pearl, and all we heard was, we can't have a guy like that in Lincoln. That's not the Nebraska way. So is the Nebraska way going through what we go through here year in and year out with this program, just trying to find an answer? Or do you bring in a proven winner who does have some character flaws, but now in the era of NIL, are those really flaws? I mean, let's think about Bruce Pearl's character flaws.
Mm-hmm.
He had a barbecue. He was sending texts when you weren't supposed to send text. Like,
we've all done that.
Gosh, it's terrible.
Yeah,
really. What's the Nebraska way, and is that Nebraska way hurting that university and that program as a culture?
Just win, baby, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Just win.
Yeah.
That's good. It's a good call.
It's a great point, Matt. And I've told Gary this on air and off air before you, and that I always compare, like when he's talked about how his passion for Nebraska basketball, and it reminds me of how I would get with Kansas football. Now, and he followed what I was saying. Kansas was always and still is known as a basketball school, but I was always a football guy first. Part of it being my upbringing and my where football is placed on the hierarchy of things. But Nebraska's opposite, football first. Hey.
Yeah.
But here's my point. That call, John's call about Fred, well, he's such a nice guy. I've heard that before. I heard that at Kansas about several coaches except Charlie Weis, that he's just such a great guy. You know, he's a nice guy. He's classy. You got to give him time. You got to give him 5 to 10 years. And I always said, would you be saying the same thing if it was happening on the other side of the hill? So then when you say that, the first thing I'm thinking when I hear this, would you be saying that about Matt Rhule if it's 5 years and you're still kind of sputtering away? Yeah. Or to kind of tie it back to, excuse me, last time we were together doing this, or a couple times ago, and you talked about the whole, if Matt Rhule goes 6-6 this year,
sure,
and what happens there, and you laid out a great point for, and those are fair things to say, but then the funny thing is on the other side, you talk about Fred, well, he missed the tournament, he just needs a few more years, but at some point you're like, well, when do you stop needing it? Yes, you like them, but you have to win. Everything is set up for you to win there in terms of, I'm not talking about the NIL, that's a different conversation, but I'm talking about what we've all talked about, and you lived it firsthand. You have a loyal group of fans. The students have been fantastic. Hey, credit to them. They get there no matter how terrible the weather is. They're there, and they'll be there again Saturday at 11:30. Some with a few, headaches, a little nausea, a little Alka-Seltzer for them, a little 5-hour energy. But the point is, they'll be there. And if Nebraska wins, look at No Sit Sunday. Yeah. The concept of it and the way it was just executed. So it's not like they're playing to half-empty houses. But at a certain point, if fans start to sense, well, they don't care, then they're going to stop caring. And therein lies a big part of when Gary, I love Gary talking about Danny Nee stories, because you could tell how much fun he had at those games as a student, as media. And at the end of the day, they just all wanted to win. But anyway, that's what I always think. It's like, oh, well, he's a nice, you got to leave that out of it. Yeah, he's a nice guy. A lot of coaches are nice guys, but you got to win games.
Look, this conversation about, you
got to be growing the program.
Who else could Nebraska get, right? Like I mentioned, Drake has a first-year head coach. They're going to make the tournament. Vanderbilt has a first-year head coach.
Look what Gary said about Ben McCullum the other day.
Yeah.
He's telling me about him as a potential guy to replace Bill Self one day. Whether that ever happens or not, that's not. But the point is, people think that highly of him as a good coach.
Exactly. And you look at, what Mark Byington's doing in Vanderbilt. Mm-hmm. First-year head coach. Mm-hmm. They're making the tournament. What has Dusty May done in Michigan? First-year head coach. Mm-hmm. They're making the tournament. Utah State's head coach. He's in his first year. They are kind of on the bubble, but they'll probably end up, making the tournament. Currently listed as a 9 seed on Bracket Matrix. It's like you're in the era of college basketball now, mm-hmm. where because of the portal and because of the fact that you can jumpstart things, you can turn things around quickly, which puts more pressure on Fred Hoiberg. Mm-hmm. What Pat Kelsey has done in Louisville is putting more pressure on Fred Hoiberg, because you don't think Troy Dan in the athletic department is looking around and seeing how quickly some of these. Michigan was one of the worst teams in the country last year. They are now one of the best teams in the country this year in
one
year.
Jerome Tang at K-State, and I'm not throwing shade. I like Jerome Tang. I think he's a good coach. He was a great hire by them. That first year, he has them going, and they're working the portal and whatnot. And this year they've been going through it. It's a tough deal. And I think, and we're talking about this on the stream, the portal's a good thing. Okay, it's a tool. It's an additional tool for to use. But at the end of the day, you got to have a base that you develop for a program. The portal's there to supplement. It's to add to, not to be completely. Because if you ride the roller coaster and you go like strictly all portal, you may hit a grand slam one year, have that magical year where they just make a nice run. But then you can also be like Florida State football last year and go 2-10, and then people are like, oh no, this is broken. So it's kind of in the middle, but. Part of, and I think Debo said this on the stream, this is what Mac's done at Creighton, is you build your base of a program. You build all right, this is our core. We're going to develop these guys. But hey, if there's a chance to get a quality guy in the portal that can help, look at Pop Isaacs and how he was going to continue to help that team, how great he was against Kansas, how he just fit. That's how you use it.
Same thing with Jemiah Neal, coming from Arizona State. Here's a guy
quality
who's second
player,
year,
good
quality player. The reason why they've been able to make this run after losing Pop Isaacs, he came from the portal. It's about developing. Hey,
I
like this
science.
combo.
I do too.
We're going to keep having this combo because we're getting some more emails about it. I'm sure we'll get some more callers. Don't forget to call in. Hey, good show so far. We're going to keep it rolling. Still got more to talk about Nebraska basketball. Still going to hit on Creighton basketball too. We also got some unfortunate Nebraska baseball news in terms of injuries. Got some women's basketball to talk about. The NFL is turning upside down, tipsy-turvy, whatever you want to say. And then we got Stephen M. Sipple and Brian Edwards in the final hour to end the show. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Gary and Matt.
Underdog is one of the leading sports apps, and you can play now here in your state, which is our state, the great state of Nebraska. Do you want to win up to 1,000 times your money? Well, you can with Underdog. To play, choose whether a player will go higher or lower on one of their stats, points, assists, rebounds, and more. Hey, I'll throw myself under the bus. I picked Harden to go low last night. He scores 50. They've got all your favorite leagues team stars to choose from. Create entries with all basketball picks across the NBA and college, which I did so this morning. Thanks, UConn. And you can mix and match across the other sports. I mean it. They have all these deals: tennis, golf, hockey. Like I said before, if they had cockfighting, they'd probably have that on there too. You can't snuff the rooster. And you know what? This week on Underdog, I'm looking at college basketball because it's March. I don't know what I'm picking, but I'm going to have so much information because I work here. Yeah. Download the Underdog app. Sign up now using promo code ZONE to unlock a special offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make your first deposit. Join in on all the fun when you sign up with promo code ZONE. Claim your special offer today and get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly upon first deposit. It's a lot of fun. I think you'll like it. Must be 18 plus here in Nebraska and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play. Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org.
Look, I'm going to be honest with you, Jimbo.
Good. I'll be honest with you too.
You and I, we text before the show, and we kind of talked about the things that
that picture was not meant to go to you. I'm so sorry. It's just proud. That's all.
We text before the show, and we kind of talked about, all right, these are the things that we want to hit on, and here's the direction we're going to go in some of the topics. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't think that the Fred Hoiberg potentially being let go or him not being here next year would garner as much time and as many segments as we've had.
This is usually what happens here.
But this is, I mean, it's a topic that has incredible interest. And every time we start talking about something else, we get a call about it or an email about it. And that's what it is. And so we'll go to the Equitable Bank inbox where they take banking personally. Zach, who typically writes in during Nebraska basketball.
Zach has thoughts. He's taking notes like you.
Zach typically writes in during games. He very rare in-show email from Mr. Zach, which in my opinion,
that means you pressed a button here that he has
wouldn't
words.
that boost his seating a little bit when the I think so.
Oh, yeah. By rule.
Emailing us now.
That's a quad one victory.
Zach, it is a quad one win. Zach writes it. Didn't Tom Osborne win no fewer than 9 games every single season and lose no more than 3 games every single season and make a bowl every single season? That would be the equivalent of Fred having made the NCAA tournament every single season and winning 20 games every single season. Hoiberg, 37 and 79 in conference games at Nebraska, 80 and 105 overall. GTFO with that idiotic comparison.
These are fair, these are stats.
To John, he was just talking about the environment of where college sports is at right now.
I get what everybody's saying.
We may not be giving people enough time. At the same time, Zach, here's the point. Here's the point. Fred Hoiberg's had 6 years. We are past.
Everyone always says give a coach 5.
We are past the point of give him time. He's had time, okay? And I think we know what you have with Fred Hoiberg. When his model of sustainability, which is building people through the transfer portal, building teams through the transfer portal, trying to get certain guys and develop them, when it's at its peak, they are a 5, 6, 7. I mean, they haven't been a 5 or a 6 or a 7, but could be a 5, 6, or 7. Like they had a great year last year. They made the tournament. It's one that it gets you into the tournament and gets you into the dance. It's not one where you're going to have consistent, there's a point in time, Jimmy, where you have to start asking yourself, what are you trying to accomplish? Okay? And if Nebraska basketball is trying to win a national championship in basketball, I don't think it's through this model. I don't think it's through the sustainability. I don't think it's through the transfer portal. I just don't think you can look at this and say, hey, this is the way that every single year flipping over the roster year in and year out is the way to win a national championship. Well, at this point, I don't think you can say that.
Adding to your to the thoughts of all of you, including you, Matt. Dan, thanks for the message, Dan. Emails our show Twitter, or emails, he messages our show Twitter. Back off of Fred. This is Nebraska. The recruits are not in your backyard. He is a very good coach, GBR.
I do think he's a fine coach. So it's just
Thank you, Dan, for the message.
It's one of those conversations of what are you trying to accomplish? If you're trying to make it to the tournament consistently, be in the hunt for, a conference, good seating, a conference tournament, maybe, try and make it to the Big Ten title game and whatnot. There is a larger macro conversation of what are the actual expectations of Nebraska basketball and what are they actually trying to accomplish? And if what Fred Hoiberg is good enough, is what he's doing is good enough for the Nebraska basketball program, then that's their decision. That's what they decide. If they are fine with Pinnacle Bank Arena consistently being sold out and Nebraska basketball being competitive with the top teams in the Big Ten Conference and being the bridesmaid more so than the bride.
But if there's no hope, though, that'll stop.
Exactly.
That'll start dwindling.
Now, the problem is it's only happened once. It's only occurred once. It's only happened one time. So we can't even have that argument. Fred Hoiberg has not accomplished enough for us to even have the discussion of, can you win an NCAA tournament or can you win an NCAA championship with this model? Okay. It's just, can you make it to the dance year in and year out? And after 6 years of being the head coach, that's a tough combo to have. That's a tough situation to be in, which why
couple of weeks ago, I would say, hey, let's not have this convo. But after losing to Minnesota and nearly losing to Northwestern and losing to Penn State and then losing to Ohio State and only scoring 46 points at home against Michigan when they didn't even score 50, now we have to start having this convo, which is why we're having it. Anthony writes in, I thought Nebraska basketball was picked 12 in the Big Ten in the preseason, and that is where they will finish. You could make the case Fred was overachieving early in the season and then lately have come back to the norm. I don't like this idea of, well, they were picked to finish 12th and they're overachieving. Well, why were they picked to finish 12th? This has been Fred Hoiberg's program for nearly half a decade. Okay? If they have low expectations, it's because of the job that they have done as a staff. If they can't get top talent or develop talent into becoming top talent, that's a them problem. It's been 6 years. We are past the point of giving him time. We are past the point of, well, this and that and other external factors. It's been their program. It's been, they are where they're at. And it just comes down to, like, can they do it year in and year out? Last year was massive. This year's a step back. Fred Hoiberg loses on Sunday. I don't think Fred Hoiberg should be the coach anymore. Plain and simple.
And I think that's fair.
Fred Hoiberg wins on Sunday. We'll see what they do in the Big Ten tournament. I think that's what it's come down to. Like,
but do the powers that be share that same sentiment with you? The ones who make the decisions, who write the checks.
I don't know.
That's what I wonder.
And the problem is that there's an athletic director where you really don't know if he is sharing those sentiments.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's an athletic director who I think has done a great job with football, and he's done a great job with volleyball. Haven't heard a lot about what he thinks about basketball. I'm sure in the next couple of weeks, we will know plenty. And once again, like, I know it's a weird spot to be in with basketball where you go, well, if he wins this game, he's fine. If he doesn't win this game, he's not fine. Like, that's the position he's put himself in. Don't lose 4 games in a row at the end of the year when you're on the verge of making it to the NCAA tournament for the second straight year. Don't do it.
Which, to be honest, watching some of these games, you would not know if you don't see the records. Wait, they can make this team?
I mean, they are fortunate with how bad the bubble is this year. I mean, it is absolutely ridiculous.
In a normal bubble year, this would not be a conversation.
Oh no, we're not talking about them still making the tournament. But are we having now at the same time? Is the bad bubble part of a factor as why we're still talking about him keeping his job? If the bubble was stronger this year, would we still have a conversation of him keeping his job? It's an interesting point to add.
No, because we'd be talking about, you think they'll host an NIT game? Maybe they'll go to that Fox tournament in Vegas.
But it really is
spring football.
What this all comes down to, and this is we're going to get to a break in a second, but what this all comes down to is, what does the athletic department want Nebraska basketball to accomplish? What is the athletic department willing to invest in Nebraska basketball?
How many consecutive championships did UCLA win? Wait, they don't want that?
What are they willing to invest? What are they willing to put into the war chest? How much money are they willing to pay guys? If their expectations are, we want to be one of the top programs in the Big Ten, I think you can look through 6 years of Fred Hoiberg and say, I don't know if he can accomplish that. But if their goal is to just compete with those teams in the Big Ten, have some magical years here and there, consistently be in the 7 to 10 conversation, we know that Fred Hoiberg can accomplish that. And despite the fact of just two really bad stretches in the season, they're still in the convo to do that. It just really comes down to what is the athletic department's expectations and what are they willing to invest? That's all this. That's what it really comes down to. All right. Been a lot of Nebraska basketball. I promise we will get to Creighton basketball in the next hour. We'll talk a little bit Nebraska women's basketball. They have a big game tonight. Nebraska baseball. We'll have a little speaks and then the NFL. And then Steve Sipple and Brian Edwards will join us later. You're listening to Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. Brutal news coming out of Lincoln yesterday, reported on by Evan Bland. Nebraska baseball ace Mason McConaughey is going to miss the rest of the season with an arm injury. McConaughey was projected to be a All-American. He made the preseason All-American list. So Nebraska's Friday starter out for the year, a major blow.
That's a bummer. That's a huge bummer.
I mean, talk about nightmare starts for a season for Nebraska baseball. They start the year going 4-6. It's a team that they've scored double-digit runs. They've also given up double-digit runs. They've had games where they shut teams out. They have games where they can't get a bat on the ball. It's just been an inconsistent year to begin with a team who literally ranked in the top 25 to begin the season, now without their top arm that you thought was going to be kind of the backbone of this rotation, and now he's out for the year. So Mason McConaughey done for the rest of the season. Nebraska baseball going to have to find, it already was a discussion of who the Sunday starters are going to be. Now you're going to have to find a Saturday starter. So this is why you hired Rob Childress, though, a couple of years ago, right? Like you brought him back.
I got you. I'll get us an arm.
You brought him back in order for him to develop bullpen or develop, pitchers, to have a deep bullpen, to have some depth for really when injuries like Mason, this happen. You can recover, but a terrible, terrible blow for Nebraska baseball.
This is one of those like arm injuries you're talking about, like one of not good.
I just say,
it's
just he's out for the year, so we'll see. It's always
whatever
dicey.
It is. It's a bummer.
I grew up with a lot of baseball players, and whenever you talk about the arm, it's like you don't really know. And
there's always
there's always you're holding your breath for certain things to happen. Nebraska women's basketball, really good game yesterday from Alexis Markowski. She had 19 points. Brent Pritz, the freshman who is going to be an absolute star in the next couple of years here in Nebraska, she had 10 yesterday. They take on Illinois. Nebraska women's basketball, one of the last 4 byes heading into the conference tournament, absolutely could not lose that game yesterday. Really put yourself on holding your breath a little bit, if you will.
Win another one. Pad your
resume.
Yes.
When an
Sorry, I was trying not to die
locks you in, essentially. They lost earlier in the season to Illinois, so should be a pretty good rematch. Let's see what time. Pretty sure that game is later today. Looking at it right now. That game will tip off at 5:30 p.m. That will be on the Big Ten Network. Kansas City takes on Omaha as the Mavericks' journey to the NCAA tournament begins tonight in the Summit League Conference Tournament. And then we have some Nebraska girls high school basketball.
MJ wants to know what time Omaha plays. You said 6, right?
6 tonight.
6.
Yes. So
usually it's late. 6.
Yesterday in Class A, Lincoln North Star defeated Omaha Westview, and Lincoln Christian defeated North Bend as they stayed undefeated. And then Milford actually defeated Arlington. It's the first time that Milford girls basketball had ever won a state game. So congratulations to those teams as we continue with the Nebraska girls high school basketball state tournament. We're picking up here. This is why March is one of the best months in all of sports. You got college basketball at its height, March Madness right around the corner. High school basketball tournaments are happening. We're going to have NFL free agency next week. Got some trades, got some pickups, got everything.
Had a blizzard. It's going to be 72 early next week. Oh, yes. That's happening.
Things are rolling along here on 1620 The Zone. Omaha basketball playing tonight. 6 o'clock tip against the Kansas City Monarchs, who they beat twice this season. Omaha hockey doesn't have or has a game this Friday. They finish up the NCHC regular season against number 18 North Dakota after a decent weekend, splitting their series against Arizona State. We'll have the NCHC quarterfinals next week. Speaking about hockey, Alexander Ovechkin, OT winner yesterday for the Washington Capitals. He's now 9 goals away from breaking what we thought was an unbreakable record in Wayne Gretzky. His goal record, he's now just 9 away from that. As the Capitals have one damn good team this year as well. Nothing better than playoff hockey. Pretty decent college basketball slate tonight. If you want the little Arch Madness, you can see some Missouri State take on Illinois State at 2:30. Some conference tournaments here. Michigan State is going to go to Iowa in what could be, and what I think what we're assuming is going to be Fran McCaffrey's last home game at Hawkeye Carver Arena. I mean, is that kind of a foregone conclusion at this point?
To celebrate him.
I mean, it's
wear special patches. If it's cake and ice cream.
Yeah, if it's a secret, it's one of the worst kept secrets in sports right now, or at least in college basketball, that Fran could very well just retire, get fired. We'll see what happens there. His potential last game ever in the Big Ten will be on Sunday when Nebraska basketball takes on the Hawkeyes.
So you can pay tribute to him before you go?
Yeah, okay. I will be there. I will be out in the town. Catch me at McKinney's from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m.
Nice.
Like you said, Nebraska women's basketball has a pretty big game tonight as well. Some pretty big news yesterday. I don't know. Yesterday was a sneaky NFL day. A lot of movement happened. Joe Thuney ended up going to my Chicago Bears, who are now beefing up.
You need a quality offensive line, and he's a good lineman.
I would be a big fan if they were to get one more, and then maybe look at drafting Ashken Jeanty. Hey, if you're in need of a running back this year for your NFL team, this is the draft to do it. There are so many good ones. Marion Hampton out of North Carolina, RJ Harvey out of UCF, Bashal Tuden out of Virginia Tech. You even got those the Ohio State boys and Quinshon Judkins and Travion Henderson, who both had awesome combines, just looked massive and had incredible broad jumps, great explosiveness. If you look even farther back in the draft, you can pick up a quality back like Trevor Etienne. You can't forget about what Caleb Johnson could do at Iowa. I'm telling you right now, if you want a running back, this is the draft to do it. And if there's another position you're going to want to need, it's going to be D-line this year. Milton Williams out of for the Philadelphia Eagles, who was kind of the unsung hero, if you will, of that team, that Super Bowl winning team last
Basically,
season.
Whoever the Eagles want to draft them, because they know what they're doing.
Well, exactly. Well, Williams
most of your teams don't, including mine.
A free agent, or is a free agent this year, and I think he was kind of overshadowed by Davis and Jalen Carter, but he was a massive reason why they won the Super Bowl, and it looks like he will be on the open market after the Philadelphia Eagles surprisingly decided. It's a little bit against the grain of what Howie Roseman has done, paying Saquon Barkley $21 million, and then yesterday re-signing Zach Bond to a $17 million three-year, $17 million a year deal. So it looks like Williams is going to be on the market, and then another D-end who will be on the market more than likely will be Josh Sweat, who should have won the Super Bowl MVP, in my opinion. I mean, he had an incredible year and then an even better Super Bowl game. What a night that was to see the Chiefs suffer. Well, you just like it because the Missouri Tigers fans suffered.
Oh, I don't care about them. No, that night had nothing to do with Mizzou. They got there. That's a whole different conversation. I was just, you know what? I am a ray of positivity, and that night I was all about love.
I'm sure I that is not the truth at all. Mm-hmm. At all. I just feel, I hear the sarcasm in your voice. I hear the hatred.
Big ass teddy bear.
Exude. You're not a big ass teddy bear.
Big giant heart.
Anyway, more DN news. Max Crosby ended up signing a 3-year, $90 million extension yesterday. It makes him the richest non-NFL quarterback paid in NFL history. Joey Bosa, now on the market as I almost said San Diego. The LA Chargers, a former San Diego Chargers, decided to release Bosa yesterday. Do you know what's one team that needs a defensive end?
Our teams?
San Francisco.
Oh.
A nice little reunion, maybe the Bosa brothers together, back at it. And then, I mean, look, you look at this NFL draft. If you need a defensive end too, I mean, you got James Pierce out of Tennessee. Mike Green is one hell of a player. Shamar Stewart out of Texas A&M. You got some big, beefy offensive linemen with Mason Graham from Michigan. His counterpart, forgetting his name off the top of my head, but he'll go in the first round as well. Ty Robinson is in that conversation when you talk about mid-round guys. You can't forget about Mykel Williams out of Georgia. And I'm happy that when we talk about defensive linemen, and when we talk about defensive ends upcoming in this NFL draft, that Ty Robinson is involved in that conversation. And the minute that Matt Rhule came here to Nebraska, he made it very clear. It was music to a lot of Nebraska football fans' ears when he said, we are going to build this program through the trenches. This is the Big Ten. You got to be good on the offensive line. You got to be good on the defensive line. We are going to build through the big and through the uglies. We're going to establish a run game. We're going to run the ball a lot. We're going to stop the run a lot. And I think that, I mean, look, it's not just a Nebraska football thing. It's just a football thing that you win games in the trenches, that you win games through your push, not only pushing away toward the defense, but pushing into the offensive line. And one guy, and we talk a lot, and we've been talking a lot about Addison Williams. Been talking about how he's the fourth defensive backs coach in his many years. Different type of personality than the guys before him. The fact that there's like 29 or however, I think it's like 27 defensive backs in that room. It's a daunting job. But I think everybody knows this, that if you're going to win at any level of football, you need that game-changing defensive lineman. You need that game-changing edge rusher. You need a guy where it's 3rd and 8 on an obvious passing situation, and you know that he's going to get to the quarterback, whether it be sacking him or pressuring him or making him step up in the pocket, getting him off rhythm. You need that guy. And I think because of that and because the talent that they have, Terry Braden has an enormous job to do for this Nebraska football team. And Nebraska football's got a lot of talent. They got a lot of talent in that D-line. They have Keona Davis. They have Riley Van Poppel. They now picked up Jalen George out of Eastern Tennessee. They have Williams Nwaneri, who was a former 5-star prospect out of Missouri. You have a veteran guy in Elijah Judy, who has had a pretty solid career. Elijah Judy is one of those guys who he has kind of gone under the radar. It's one of those instances where you got to develop this D-line. You got to take this young talent, and you got to get a game record. And I think it's a lot to ask for from a guy who hasn't had a college football defensive line room before. He's never really had his room where he says, hey, these are my guys, and I'm going to develop them. I mean, he spent 8 years in the pros, you know, and someone asked him right away, hey, what is the difference between developing college football players and NFL players? Well, he was like, look, you don't really need to tell NFL players, you got to get out of your scans quicker. You don't really need to tell NFL players, hey, this is where you need to put your hands. You don't need to tell NFL players, hey, this is how you swipe, and this is the situation, and these are the techniques. They know it. They've been doing it for a while. Hell, I don't know how much coaching Chris Jones in Kansas City really needs anymore.
He's developed.
I don't know how much you need to tell George Karlaftis anymore, how much, you know, what he needs to do. Right. But at the same time, it's encouraging in the fact that Nebraska football has gone out and gotten guys who are going to coach these, you know, very young players, this very young core of players that they have throughout the entirety of the roster. They've gotten guys who've won before. They've gotten guys who've tasted success. They've gotten guys who've been around the top dudes, whether it be in college football or whether it be in the NFL. Terry Braden has coached Chris Jones. He's coached George Karlaftis. He's been in the same locker room as Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins and Tyreek Hill. And you can, you know, goes on and on. You go to the offensive line, Creed Humphrey, Joe Thuney. Like, He's been around greatness. He's been around incredible players. You look at Daniel Holgorsen, some of the great players he's been around, Tavon Austin, Tank Dell. You know, even credit to Matt Rhule and just, you know, the staff that he's brought with him in Temple. They've been around really good players. They know what it looks like. But man, like, you look at the D-line, you look at how young they are, you look at just how important we've seen for these, not only just in college football, but in the NFL. Man, that front four, you got to have it. You got to have a front four. You got to have that domination, not only on offense, but on defense. And Terry at that press conference had a ton of energy. I mean, smiling the entire time, making sure he knew everybody's names, incredibly personable. And it's one of those things that you can kind of see some personality exude in those pressers, which is why I love going to them, because you can see a little bit. They don't show you all the cards. I'm not naive to think that Terry Braden is the same way at a press conference that he is in his own defensive lineman room, but you see those flashes and the way that he can kind of tune in and out of having that energy, being that smiley guy, trying to relate to his players, but at the same time have a ton of knowledge and lock into the fact that he knows he has to develop this talent on the D-line, right? Same thing with Mike Ekeler, right? You see the knowledge and the fact that he has coached so much football around some of the greatest minds in the game. But then you also see that intensity, right? You get it. It doesn't show the entire curtain, but you just get a little bit of sneak peek of what impact they can have. And like I said before, Addison Williams, he's a straight arrow guy, very well media trained. You can tell he's been around the block a lot. You can tell he's been a coordinator in the past. But Terry Braden has such an important job because it's not only just about the fact that this D-line needs to be good, but this D-line needs to be good now, and it needs to be good quickly. And you've lost two incredibly important dudes in Nash Hutmacher and Ty Robinson, who you could both argue have been the greatest. Their development has been the greatest accomplishment of Matt Rhule's tenure here at Nebraska. Both those guys were fine players. Both those guys were solid defensive linemen when Matt Rhule got here. And, you know, you look at Matt Rhule's history and he's essentially a defensive coordinator. That's kind of his role, and he's coached every position, but that's, you know, mainly where he began at. The fact that those two guys developed, I mean, Ty's going to be a day two, late day two, early day three pick. Incredible development from him. Nash Hutmacher, we'll see what happens he should have been invited to the combine. It was such a shame that he wasn't invited to the combine. Nash Hutmacher is going to have, or you're hoping that he has a great pro day and ends up on some of those late day three mock draft boards. But Terry Braden, the weight that he carries on his shoulders to get a lot of these guys who haven't played a ton of college football, to get them competing at a high level against really, really good Big Ten offensive lines is going to be a massive, massive challenge. And we're at year three. We're at year three. It's put up or shut up time now. It's win or go home time now, right? We've talked about building a culture and building a program and trying to weed out the challenges that may have been there previously to when Matt Rhule has shown up. It's been 3 years now. This is it. We've talked about year three, Matt Rhule, over and over and over again. And they've not only put the pieces in place from a team and talent perspective, but they put the pieces in place from a coaching perspective. You know, now some of it was out of Matt Rhule's hands, but when it was put in his hands to go out and hire, he hit a home run with Dana. At least I think he did. There's no question he's hit a home run with Mike Ekeler, and we all knew that just from the previous stops and the merit that he brings and what he accomplished. But talking to him at the press conference, it was even more so evident that was the case. But you know, if you're going to win in the Big Ten, you gotta develop a D-line, and it scares me a little bit with how young this D-line is, and it scares me a little bit with the fact that their coach hasn't had his own room before, and this is the first time that he's really going to be the man in front of a bunch of players, and it's going to be his job to develop them. It scares the crap out of me, but this is the risk you have to take, and this is where you make your money. Matt Rhule hired Terry Braden for a reason. If Terry Braden ends up being an incredible D-line coach, we're going to give him all the credit in the world. We're gonna be like, what a hire. If he doesn't, it might lead to them having a really bad season and us questioning a lot more than just why did he hire Terry Braden.
Mike on the stream says that Matt McMaster press conferences has been a nice wrinkle, and I agree. Have they fed you? Have they rolled out the red carpet?
No, they used to feed us.
Yeah.
They don't feed us.
Like they actually sat down and scooped food.
They used to
did the airplane.
On Mondays, they used to put us up in that press box media room and give us Valentino's pizza and give us salad and give us like a pie pizza and like some blueberry tarts and whatnot.
Wow.
And it was an incredible for me as a college student when I was working and I didn't have a lot of money.
We've all been there.
That was important. Mm-hmm. That was a massive staple of my life.
I used to thank KU Athletics for feeding me often.
I used to not eat on Mondays because I was like, oh, I'm getting fed by the athletic department today. Now they put us in, and don't get me wrong, they've made a very nice room,
There's a new terrain
in the Hawks Championship Center.
Here's a scone.
The table, no
scone.
There's zero.
Nothing.
The tables are nice. The chairs are incredible. The view to the actual, like the air conditioning is great. It's always
shout out air conditioning.
It's the perfect temperature in that room. The audio feed from the box that they set up is brand spanking new, and so you never really have an audio problem. You're not in the North Concourse anymore, where you can hear the pipes and the plumbing from 3 miles away because that stadium's old and decrepit and tearing.
It's seen better days.
Yeah, it's literally rotting, and you can hear it rotting when it's empty.
Yeah.
So it's all better than what it used to be, but they don't feed us anymore.
That's sad. Somebody, maybe SIP could have the voice that could change them. I'm trying to think of veteran. These people more. This is your cup of tea here. So the ones who have some power. Maybe it's you. Maybe you can change it and get them fed. You crawl so that they can walk.
I am not going to knock on any door and say, "Hey, please feed me." And they're not.
Well, no. This has nothing to do with feeding. I don't even
no. I work here. No one listens to me. I don't even work over there. You think they're going to listen to me?
Statistically speaking, some of these media members are diabetic. If they don't eat, they could die. Do you want their death on your hands? Here's Arunza. Go Big Bread.
Do they
at least shout your name?
I've accidentally been saying the Kansas City Monarchs. They're the Kansas City Kangaroos. I'm aware. Sorry.
Shout out baseball.
Yeah, I know.
Matt's ready for baseball.
I am.
That's the takeaway here.
Oh my God.
Matt does not like kangaroos.
I do like kangaroos. I would love to fight a kangaroo just as long as
you could go to Sioux Falls and fight many tonight.
I would like just as long as when the kangaroo starts to whip my butt that they pull me out,
right?
So I don't die.
Not like Creed Drago and someone's yelling to throw the damn towel and the kangaroos.
No. We're not going to do that. I'm not going to have Sylvester Stallone in my corner. I will have someone else. Then
Gary's going to go to Australia later in the film and fight a kangaroo on his home turf.
Rocky got enough flack for not throwing in the towel.
If they would have had, if they would have had big fight overreaction in those days in 1985, I think that would have been a big topic on all the talking head shows.
I'm going to be honest with you. If Rocky was real, I don't know if he would be the most likable guy.
Also, what about this referee? I mean, I know he tried to stop it at the end and Drago threw him away, but you probably should have had a feeling that it was.
The commission would suspend him. He would never be allowed to referee a fight again. But no, like that's an honest conversation. Like, I don't know if Rocky got enough flack. And then we found out in the Creed movie, and after, oh my God, why am I blanking?
See, it's in the air today.
After
Creed 2?
No.
Creed 3?
No. What's his the actual
Michael B. Jordan?
No.
Sylvester Stallone.
Who died?
Oh, Apollo Creed. Carl Weathers, rest in peace.
Creed. I'm sorry. After Apollo Creed died, I don't think Rocky got enough flack. And then we find out in the Creed movies that after Apollo died, Rocky went to the funeral and then never contacted his wife again.
Yeah.
That's kind of BS.
He went in the car and started speeding.
Isn't that kind of rude?
He was acting like a Georgia football player,
I'm just saying,
breaking the speed limit.
Like if Rocky was was an actual character, I don't know if I'd be a really big fan of him. I'd be like, you're the reason Apollo died. You should have thrown in the towel. Now you get all the glory by beating Drago,
ending the Cold War. In reality, it's Apollo who gave his life for the Cold War.
Yes.
Apollo Creed, American hero.
I mean, essentially, Rocky came out to be this great hero at the end of the movie. You're the reason why Apollo's dead.
Yeah. Apollo was the hero. Rocky got CTE.
To clap and cheer for you and be happy, and then you left his wife in the dust and never contacted her again?
His wife did come back. She went to Russia.
But I'm saying in the creed, like after the funeral.
I know.
I'm just saying.
Most people go back to the church and eat sandwiches.
Hot take: Rocky, not a great guy. I might get myself canceled by saying that. I think a lot of people are going to be like, "What is this guy talking about?" Rocky is my hero.
You know what? It's a conversation we have to have.
Just being honest here.
Yeah.
Just being honest. It's all about just being honest.
It gets worse after you watch Apollo Creed die. Then you watch Predator the next day, watch him get his arm blown off, and then killed again by an alien. Then I wonder why I turned out the way I did.
We got a lot to get to the rest of the show.
All right, GBR.
Continue our Nebraska basketball conversation over Fred Hoiberg and his potential job security. Creighton men's basketball team plays a very important game on Saturday where they can get themselves a little bit momentum rolling into the NCAA tournament. What is Creighton basketball ceiling? That's an actual question. We'll talk about the ACC and their essential timestamp on when this college football landscape will really get all blown to smithereens, and then we'll have some Steve Sipple conversations at 9:15, followed up by the red-hot Brian Edwards at 9:45. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Gary Mann on 1620 The Zone.
There is something happening pretty special in Papillion at 99th and Portal Road. What is it? It is AEF Academy. It's one of the fastest growing youth basketball programs in the Omaha area. You can hear the basketballs bouncing, all of the excitement, the coaching going on right now. Tryouts are going on as well for spring and summer from second grade all the way through 17 under boys and girls. For dates and times, go online at afacademy.com. It's got all the information you need. There is never a fee to try out. Registration is required, and you're going to get a thorough tryout with professional evaluation. Great coaching, paid coaches that'll be there on the floor with you. They make eye contact with the players. They have great vocal skills. It's an all-around fun experience because they emphasize the journey, not the scoreboard. And they got their No Palms program. Foul calls become a tap on the heart. My bad, ref. All around, lots of excitement. You can be part of it as well. Basketball, spring and summer tryouts going on right now. For more information, go online at aefacademy.com.
It is. And you know what? You can join the VIP club and sign up for 1620, the email. You'll be the first to know all the exciting content that's happening on 1620 The Zone. Hey, want to learn about your favorite personalities? Learn about them before they learn about them. You can do that by doing this, including sports news, contests, promotions, and more. Sign up today at 1620thezone.com.
I'm a betting man.
We know.
Everybody knows that. I'm not a big futures guy. Okay? I don't like to have my money always tied up. Everybody know I don't know if everybody knows, but I'm like I have a limit. I have a very nice limit for like per week betting that I always set myself to. But now we're kind of in the dead period of gambling, at least for me, where it's like I'm not a big MLB like game by game type better. I just think that's just how you get yourself into a hole, and you don't have any damn clue who's going
that's
to
where you
win
defer to
night
the
in and
experts
night
to
out,
help you.
You know, like, and you can, like, some people are like, you know, you can just start, if a team goes on a losing streak, you can start betting their money line and trying to, you know, get big odds when they win. You can, you know, gamble it up and do a snowball or whatever. Get out of here, okay? I'm not a big MLB gambler, but I do have one future that I think I'm going to make. And I was thinking about this even before I've read some reports here. Paul Skeens to win the Cy Young, currently plus 300.
Somewhere Nick Grimm is nodding with you in approval.
CBS Sports released yesterday. This man has a new pitch. He's now putting the cutter into his repertoire. That is scary.
This is like when Neo learned Kung Fu and he told Morpheus.
Like, that is scary. The fact now that, like, his 3-pitch combo of the 4-seamer with the splinter and the slider was already absolutely disgusting when you consider the fact those pitches look pretty similar and they break off in different ways. And, like, the velocity is already absolutely ridiculous because the guy is just a hoss. Now you're telling me that this dude is going to be able to run a cutter on the inside of lefties? What? No.
The Pirates just need to pay him now before he ends up with the Yankees.
Isn't that the crappy thing about baseball?
Yep. You can be with the Mets, Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox.
I hate that you didn't say my team.
I want to, but I don't trust them to spend.
No, they don't operate like that. You shouldn't have said
if they did, I'd be like, okay, but no,
I just hate that you didn't. You just didn't say my team.
Those are the 4 teams.
If Paul Skeens wasn't already scary, now he's just added another insane. And by the way, the video of it is absolutely ridiculous. The
Pirates need to start
the
a
glove
GoFundMe.
side run that this pitch is getting, Jimmy. I don't know if you've seen the video of his brand new cutter. It is terrifying. It is terrifying that this man now can just absolutely crush you, especially with lefties on the inside. So there you go. I mean,
that's a good futures to take if that's what you're aiming at.
+3. I feel like plus 300 is like taking a little bit of money. At the same time, though, it's like that is the one concern. I just think in any sports, but more so with pitchers, right? Like how scared you can get about having an arm injury, you know, and just being like at any moment his elbow can just explode and it can just crap out.
I've seen and heard that.
Like forever now, you just have to deal with it and the surgeries and whatnot. It's like, you know, we'll see. I mean, he throws really, really hard. Really, really hard. And now that we're getting, and he's a big dude, like you just hope and pray that he just does not.
Maybe he can be like Nolan Ryan, who was almost unhuman, if people remember.
My dad's favorite player, Nolan Ryan. I almost bought a Nolan Ryan signed ball at a Los Angeles Angels game. Would you like to guess how much that ball cost?
$27.
$27.
That's trying. That's
$300.
I was close.
I almost did it. I almost pulled the trigger on that. I feel like I should have.
Would it have been a present for Dad or for you?
Oh, for me.
Okay.
You kidding me?
Oh, I'm not judging either way.
Would have been a present.
Knowing
for
you,
both
I could
of
have
us.
seen you doing it for him.
Would have been a present for both of us. Yeah, I like my dad, but Nolan Ryan baseball is pretty damn cool. I got a pretty good problem is though that my signed baseball collection is just way too many Cubs and not enough like diversity. Like the only non-Cub I have is Matt Cain.
Of course.
But other than that, it's just Chris Bryant, Derek Lee, Ryan Terrio, Ramos Ramirez.
You have Andre Dawson.
I don't have Andre. I do have Fergie. I have Fergie and
not that Fergie, kids.
No. Fergie Jenkins.
Yeah.
And I do have Ernie Banks too,
Mr. Cup.
So, and that's nice because the value of that.
Rhino and Gracie.
Go up. I don't have Rhino.
You'll get it.
I got to get Rhino. Got to get Mark Grace. The one weird one that I do want is Mark Pryor, who is now a assistant coach for the Los Angeles.
Yeah, he's a good pitching coach.
So he's kind of he's a really good pitching coach. I mean, he's got the best pitching staff in the league. Sasaki looked pretty good the other day. He went 3 innings.
NIL money with the Dodgers.
Yeah, but I mean that's it, right? With Skeens, like you talk about, like, hey, he's going to be a great Yankee one day.
Gonna look good in Dodger blue.
It's one of those things where it just happens in sports. But you know what? Maybe it's a little bit better than what happens in the NBA. Because the NBA is just absolutely useless, and the Dallas Mavericks might have to end up selling their team after the absolute.
I'm fine with them continuing to lose games. Especially when we get their draft pick.
Are you just praying and hoping for Cooper Flagg at this point? Like, is that just what your season has boiled down to?
I'm just hoping and praying for domination. I don't care who it is. I think we're definitely on the come. We had a little setback this year, but the foot's getting lubed up and ready, and asses will be kicked soon enough in San Antonio once again.
The NBA desperately needs Cooper Flagg to pan out, and I think they desperately need him to be with Victor Wembanyama because, look, the young stars that are supposed to be the next generation of NBA greats, just I don't know, they're just kind of not as relatable and not as gripping as all of these young
season tickets 210-227-9600.
I don't know. James Harden dropped 50 though yesterday for a Clippers win, so
yay.
I mean the old guard is still old guarding, as LeBron James still to this day looks like a top 8 NBA player, which is absolutely ridiculous. You a big halftime show guy?
Define halftime show. Are we talking about like Kendrick Lamar halftime show or Ernie, Chuck, and Kenny halftime show?
Because I want to get
or whatever excrement they had on FS1 during the Friday night football games this year.
See, that's the thing. So, just exactly.
You got sunny in Columbus.
You got my You're getting
it's
my
9
you're
o'clock.
You're right on tune with me already, and I haven't even said what I'm about to say. FIFA's going to have a halftime show.
Okay.
Coldplay is going to be playing. Big fan of Coldplay.
Yeah.
Big fan of Coldplay.
That'll get them going.
I love a halftime show.
I like the first 2 albums
when it matters. Don't give me a halftime show for like the Thanksgiving football game or for the Christmas Day game or anything like that.
Now, to be fair, on Thanksgiving Day 2001, our nation was hurting. It needed uniting. It needed healing. And here comes Scott Stapp out of the bullpen.
We do need.
Creed united the country as one. And then on Super Bowl Sunday, a few weeks later, U2 completed the United America.
Do we know what the next year's halftime show for the Super Bowl will be yet? I don't think we do we?
I fear they're going to regret. Everyone was complaining about things this year. They're just going to end up going with something like, well, here's something popular everybody can like. How about we celebrate California music? How about we have Metallica, Bay Area band? How about we celebrate?
Oh, they have. Oh my God.
The Chili Peppers are from California.
This is crazy. Do you know you can bet?
We could just recreate the one in LA a few years ago because that was fantastic.
You can bet on the Super Bowl 60 halftime show, like who it will be. There are like actual odds.
Give me some. I haven't read this, so tell me.
I'm trying to here. Here it is. You ready?
Is Tony Orlando and Dawn on there?
Taylor Swift plus 400, Drake plus 800, Post Malone plus 800, Ariana Grande plus 1200. Billie Eilish plus 1,200, Justin Bieber plus 1,200, Lil Wayne plus 1,200, Miley Cyrus plus 1,200. I'd like Jay Biebs. I know he's been in the news recently. He looks really skinny and he's laughing a lot, and people are worried about him. And
why? Because he's skinny honest, and laughing.
Well, I
wish I was both.
Being honest, if anyone who's been more abused and had more trauma in Hollywood, there's very few people like Justin Bieber who've unfortunately been taken advantage of. But we're not a pop culture show; we are a sports show, so we won't get into it.
Other shows for pop
Creed
culture.
should be the halftime.
Creed, are you telling Creed if they could just play the My Own Prison album, which is their best album, the first one? It's really like banger. Start to finish.
Creed should be the halftime show. Creed should be the halftime show, and they should be on with Nickelback.
Oh my God.
Do you know how the divorced dads everywhere would cheer in excitement when Nickelback would hit the stage?
The commercials that would buy time here.
Oh my God.
Men, are you single again and you're looking to get back on the horse?
Are you telling me that
hymns
Creed
would
and
be all over
Nickelback
that?
Wouldn't rock this nation to its core?
I'd cry.
Grown man tears. I don't know if
even if the Chiefs, which will probably be in the Super Bowl again next year, I'll be like, it doesn't matter because Creed's here. They've united us all.
I don't know how many women would love a Creed Nickelback uniformity halftime show, but I'm telling you right now, I'm just saying, Creed and Nickelback would tear the house down, and I'm absolutely excited that Coldplay is playing for FIFA and the halftime show, because Coldplay also, now they're not in the Nickelback Creed category.
Yeah, don't insult
at
them.
all. No. I won. I love Coldplay.
They're
but
their
like,
own deal.
I'm telling you right now, male rock bands, we need the back a little bit. Female rock bands are great too. Don't get me wrong, but like we need a little bit of a comeback with some male rock bands. Like with the singular pop stars and everything like that. No, it's great, and we've been through this journey. But let me tell you something right now. There's nothing better than just 7 men, and you only know the name of one of them, who just make incredible music.
Wait,
okay?
You're still talking about bands, right?
I'm talking about bands.
You scared me for a second. I went to answer the phone. I thought you'd change to something else.
This is a good change of topic. We're gonna go to Nebraska ball Mike on the line. Mike, how you doing, my man?
I bet you guys think that I stayed up all night and watched that game.
Did you?
I woke up about 2 a.m. and caught the highlights.
Wow.
Are you out of your mind?
Why am I out of my mind, Mike?
I not you, just generally. Just
Rhetorical.
Fred Hoiberg, anybody associated with this program, are you out of your mind? You think that I want to watch this team ever again?
Are you so you're not rooting for a win on Sunday and 3 wins in the tournament to get this team in the NCAA tournament, Mike?
You think that I've ever seen a more disappointing team in Nebraska ball history?
This one's pretty bad, Mike.
I've seen Todd Sadler have better effort with his teams. Are you kidding me? 114 points, you should not be in overtime.
Double overtime.
90-something points, you shouldn't be in overtime. If you had any foot speed on this team, Fred Hoiberg, you have one job next year if you don't get fired now.
Would you fire him, Mike?
Troy Dannon, here's the deal. Unless Fred Hoiberg finds a team that can run and play defense, it doesn't matter what he wants to do offensively. You got to play defense. If you put up 100, you should win.
This is true.
You need to be fired. Troy Dannon, I don't know if you have a short list. I don't know what you're qualified to go get. I don't know who you know. I don't even know if you care about basketball. People here do. People here have been living and dying this team for 30 years plus. I've never seen a more disappointing outcome than I saw last night, and I'm so glad that I did not stay up for 40 minutes to watch that game.
Well,
I would have broken my television.
I love the passion, Mike. Thanks for calling again, man.
You're welcome.
I mean, we talked about it a little bit on the crossover, but this is not a likable team. It's not. I mean, there's anything less likable. I don't know anything less likable than inconsistency. I don't know anything less likable than a team whose highs are so high and their lows are so low, and it has to do with effort. And
typically a-holes, but that's a different conversation about people I don't like.
And it's such a contrast from last year, because how could you not like last year's team? How can you not enjoy watching Keisei Tominaga? And any night it could be any of those guys' night. That was the beauty of that team last year. There could be a CJ Wilcher night. There could be a Rink Mask night. There could be a Bryce Williams night. There could be a Jamarcus Lawrence night. Hell, there was a Josiah Alec. There was a Josiah Alec night. One game, I think it was at home against Maryland. Like, any night it could have been anyone's night. And now with this team, it's like you got to have Bryson, you got to have Jawan. If you don't have those two, well, good luck, because you can't really trust anybody else. And inconsistency and lack of effort is one hell of a way to not have a fan base not like you. We go to Scott on the lines. Hey, Scott, how you doing?
Gentlemen, thanks for taking my call.
Oh, of course. Thanks for calling. What do you got for me?
I don't always agree with Nebraska ball, Mike.
Yeah.
But I love Nebraska so much that I am willing to root for Iowa on Sunday.
Wow.
Something has got to change. Tear this thing down. It reminds me of the Oklahoma State game in the Callahan era.
Ooh.
I stood up in the North Stadium and implored fans to get up and walk out at halftime.
It was 38-0.
The only reason you stay is you want this to continue. Get up and walk out.
Hey, Scott, I got a question for you. And I don't completely blame you after what I've seen from this season. But do you think this is just a Fred Hoiberg isolated problem, or do you think there also needs to be a better effort from the athletic department to help out Hoiberg or maybe even the next coach with this basketball team?
Oh, 100% true. 100% true. But in my opinion, Fred's lost this team because I have never in my lifetime. The true easiest solution is to find a better first half coach for Nebraska. Mm-hmm. Let Fred coach the second half. But that's unrealistic, and that's unattainable, and that's just ludicrous talk anyway.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
the lack of effort and that you can blame it on the players, but at some point the buck stops with the coach, and it's got to be coaching.
I agree with you, Scott. Great call. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you this right now. I think that there are a lot of things that you can give Fred credit for, and there have been some pretty interesting and maybe even complimentary coaching moments that he's had. It is an indictment, though, the fact that in January he was talking about effort and screaming about effort and screaming about playing better defense and having a better identity. And it's now March. It's now crunch time. We have now gotten to the point where you've had winnable games to lock yourself in the NCAA tournament. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the same things. We're talking about the same effort. We're talking about the same defensive identity.
Can't do that on March 6th.
And I do think that there are other aspects of all of this Nebraska basketball program that have more to do with just Fred Hoiberg and his coaching ability and his transfer portal ability and his developmental ability. And I think we all kind of know that. But the fact that you've been preaching the same message and you just haven't been able to consistently get it through your guys, that this is like the fact that it's even a coin flip game in and game out, that will this team give the effort needed in order to win? The fact that that is even a question is not good. It's not good at all. And it's definitely one of those points where if you're making the point that Fred Hoiberg shouldn't be here next season, that he shouldn't be the head coach of Nebraska, it's a valid one. It's a valid argument to say, hey, he wasn't able to galvanize these troops. He wasn't able to get this message through them consistently. This team didn't buy in to what he was saying, and even though they knew that if they play great defense, they can beat top teams like UCLA and Illinois and Oregon on the road and Creighton on the road, even though they know that they can do it, they didn't consistently bring that effort. And
you can't be saying that in March.
You cannot be saying it in March.
I mean, I would argue you can't be saying that in January either.
It's such an interesting combo because there are so many layers to it, not only just from a coaching staff perspective, but an athletic department perspective. But it's one of those things where it's like, man, like how are we still talking about effort in March? And how can you defend that? We'll try defending and we'll try talking about more of it. Hey, I don't know. This might be the music that Fred Hoiberg's playing himself at night with the fact where his team can't consistently give the effort that he needs to win games. It's sad. It's sad and it's frustrating. But somehow, some way, this team is just like 3 wins maybe away from making the NCAA tournament.
Listening to Photograph while looking at Casey.
They're still in some tournament brackets after a 4-game losing streak. Well, we'll try and remind you of the good days of Nebraska football and Nebraska basketball coming up next year on 1620 The Zone. You're listening to Gary Matt. Don't go anywhere. Everybody's favorite. Who doesn't love Soundgarden?
People who hate puppies, babies,
can we
pizza,
just do divorce?
beer,
Can we just like, our bumps in and bumps out for the rest of the day just be divorced dad rock?
Is Soundgarden divorced? I know Nickelback is and Creed is, but does Soundgarden fall in that realm?
This good point.
I don't know, because then you got to start talking about.
But we're getting to the
Pearl Jams and your Nirvanas, but Pearl Jam would probably qualify, but Nirvana's not. I don't know.
Aren't we getting to the point though that like almost all rock music is hitting divorced dad vibes,
which is more of a commentary on the high rates of divorce nowadays?
Look, we're losing Italian actors who can be in mob movies, and we're losing rock bands, and we're losing recipes. Okay, we're losing those three things, and I'm deathly afraid of that.
Soon you're going to start replacing those great mob actors with like Stifler.
Yeah,
like
what is the next mob like genre? Like, what is the next like old timey? Because like it was westerns, and then like westerns faded out a little bit, and I think they were replaced slightly by the mob. Now we
what about the Irish mob? They have a mob.
I don't know.
That opens up Boston.
Well, you know what? Maybe the Boston movies will become. You still have all those Boston actors, all those guys who are in that.
Sure, you can get
commercial.
Simmons in there.
Even Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend, she was pretty good actor.
Yeah,
and that dunk. Oh yeah, she should get an Emmy for best commercial. I mean, she could be in those movies. I'm just saying. I mean, we're losing those three things. We need more rock bands, more Italian mob movies, more. I like Boston movies. I like to be. Oh, Dan says it's going to be the Yakuza next. I like that. Speaking about a guy who definitely could be in a Boston mob movie, John Rothstein, everybody's favorite,
nice.
Released a National Coach of the Year article.
I'm still Team Bigelow in that whole squabble.
Who do you think his National Coach of the Year is?
Is it in the SEC?
No.
Okay.
Come on. It's Rick Pitino.
Oh.
It's Rick Pitino of St. John's. His other finalists are Bruce Pearl of Auburn, Kelvin Sampson, who's done one hell of a job.
One side of my brain is thinking coaches, the other one is like which bands are divorced dad rock. I'm just completely mind blown here.
Then you got Todd Golden out of Florida, who's done a great job of reigniting that program, and then John Shire, who you see what's kind of happened in Villanova. You're seeing what's happened at North Carolina. It's hard to follow the guy. It's hard to be the guy after Jay Wright. It's hard to be the guy after Roy Williams. John Shire has done an incredible job of being the guy after Mike Krzyzewski, who is arguably the greatest coach of all time.
Oh,
and I think that
game is sold out Saturday or Sunday.
Officially?
Yeah.
Yeah, we
all going to see you, Mr. McMaster.
I will.
They heard you on the radio. Like, if he's there, I'm there.
You can find me at McKinney's. You know where I'll be. I'll be having my breakfast. Breakfast at McKinney's.
Red beer?
No, I don't like the. They call it the black and red or whatever. I'm not a big fan of that. Like it's with the red lager and the Guinness. I'm more so. They have a thing called a bee sting.
Okay,
which is a it's a screwdriver.
Okay,
with a Guinness in it.
Oh,
it's awesome.
Okay,
it's one of their best drinks. They also have a trash can, an Irish trash can.
Most bars do have a trash can,
which is basically like just a souped up vodka soda, but it's got like blue carousel on it. It's an awesome drink. Anyway, honorable mentions of this, and this is why I'm getting to this point. Don't worry, there will be some Nebraska flavor here. Is Grant McCaslin out of Texas Tech? He's done a great job. Greg Gard, who's completely changed how that Wisconsin program is played, and they're primed to get a top seed in the NCAA tournament. Pat Kelsey, who in his first year at Louisville has resurrected that program and has had them playing great, and albeit bad ACC, but still Chucky Hepburn absolutely killing it for the Cardinals, followed up by Randy Bennett at St. Mary's and Eric Olin over at UC San Diego. Don't you see a problem with that list, though, of other nominations and honorable mentions? Isn't there someone missing that happens to coach in Omaha?
Oh, you're not talking about Fred Hoiberg. I thought we were still talking about that.
I mean,
are we talking about Chris Crutchfield?
He's like Rodney Dangerfield. He can't get no respect. I mean, what are we doing?
I mean, I gave some love to Mac earlier that I actually think he doesn't get enough credit because I think he's underrated.
And here's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that he should be like second in line to Coach of the Year, or he should beat out Pitino for Coach of the Year. But the fact that we're not putting him even in the honorable mention category for what he's had to battle through, completely changing this roster, completely changed overnight. It was a completely different team with Pop Isaacs playing point guard. Hell, they beat the at-time #1 team in the country.
And he had a great game, and you think, oh,
he
here we go.
The best game.
All right.
It was
Pop and Kalk.
It was the Pop Isaacs game. It was that. I mean, that was his moment.
And before you could be done celebrating it, you're like, wait, this is a joke. This is a fake tweet, right? This is fake whoever. Nope. So you have to change in season. You only have a lot of time to do. You only have so much time to do that. And you still end up putting together pretty darn good team.
A pretty damn
that wouldn't
good
surprise
team.
You if they end up in the second weekend.
I'm
Catch
telling
the right
you right
matchups.
now. I'm telling you right now, if this team could have a great Big East tournament and get themselves into a 7 seed,
where they're hot,
no reason why they can't make it to the Sweet 16. And we talked about it yesterday. Like there are some key pieces off the bench. Like it's once again, this game their games will always come down to how does Jeremiah Neal and Stephen Ashworth and Ryan Kalkbrenner play, right? And can Ashworth make his shots? Can Neal play consistent for 40 minutes? Kalkbrenner's going to be Kalkbrenner and not turning the ball over. But man, like it also comes down to can Fedor Zugic get hot? Can Isaac Trout get hot? Can Jackson McAndrew get hot? Can these guys just start making shots? And if they do, man, the sky's the limit for the team. It's just you just gotta find it. And
the thing is, next year they'll be right back in it again. Be a different team with some of those guys gone. And look at that. They're playing good basketball as we go into March, and they're going to have a chance to do some nice things.
And they'll dip into the portal. They'll dip their toe in just like they did with Ashworth and just like they did with Shireman. They'll dip their toe in and they'll find their guys and Pop and Jeremiah Neal. I mean, like, Coach McDermott has done a great job.
I think it's going to work out for him at Creighton.
Local talent and high school talent and developing them, bringing them up, but he's also been able to blend the portal really well. And so we'll see. He'll have to do that a little bit more maybe next year. But it's a good team. And if they get clicking in the Big East tournament, bodes well for them. It's going to bode well for them in the NCAA tournament. Hey, we got a little college football to talk, and then we'll go over to Mr. Stephen M. Sipple and finish out the show with Brian Edwards. 9 o'clock hour coming up. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to Gary Matt on 1620 The Zone. I wouldn't say that Guns N' Roses is necessarily Divorced Dad.
No, but this is a banger.
This is a classic.
Makes me want to watch Terminator 2 again.
It's a good one.
Because that's where we're headed. The machines are going to become self-aware, and then Skynet's going to strike us.
How do you feel? See, when I look up things on Google, now that the first thing every time is like the AI-generated thing, like it's an AI-generated summarization instead of you like having to click on the articles, I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. That's how it begins.
It is how it begins. And I've been telling people for years, this is a slippery slope. AI is a slippery slope, people. Don't get comfortable. I know you like ChatGPT.
You see that robotic dog walking itself?
I know you like the youngsters out there. I know the youngsters out there loves having their articles being written by a robot so they don't have to spend a lot of time talking about, the previous presidents of the United States and how the Great Depression was caused by certain things. But you know what?
And how do they write Peaches?
You're one day you're writing an article to get past a college class, and the next day, we have robots who we're now working for him. Andy writes, and I don't want to see The Town 2, but it's called Da Town, and they robbed Wrigley Field during a series against the Cardinals.
At least the Bears weren't in town, eh?
Hey, I got a question. When was the last, and this might be good for Dan if Dan is still listening, because he's on this stuff. Dan's on this stuff in the YouTube chat. Shout out Dan. Shout out Andy. Shout out everybody who, Fongwei, Bayman, Jacob, Mike, who all chat in on the YouTube. Patrick as well. We love our YouTube stream chatters. Shout out all them. Captain's typically in here too. I don't know if he's in here today. Anyway, are there any when was the last good heist movie? When was the last
one of the Ocean's movies?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. So there's gonna be a new Ocean's movie,
of course,
which I am excited for. Apparently,
what are we at? 14, 15?
14. It would be Ocean's 14. It was actually a week and a half ago. George Clooney was like, "There's a really good script with the original cast," which a lot of them have to be old now, and I think it. Shut up, Mike. It goes to this as well. I don't want to be old man on my lawn being create new ideas, but I think the Ocean's movies might be one of the only ones where I'm like, you know what? I'll indulge. I'll do that. I'll do an Ocean's 14. Everything else, make new stuff. But the Ocean's movie, it's pretty great. Pretty great.
Damon, a lot of people.
Matt Damon, Brad Pitt, George Clooney. That's cast stacked. Do you know what's a heist too? Do you know what's another? Do you know what is? Oh, Charles, shout out. Shout out, Charles. I'm sorry, guys. Can't shout everybody out. These guys come to my mind. Listen, do you know what is the biggest heist movie that's going on right now?
Yeah, Charles and Mike. Shout out.
Do you know who's the biggest heist going on right now? The true heist movie?
Hunter Dickinson and the money he's taken from Kansas.
Oh, I was going to say AJ Storm. He's taken from Kansas. No, it's actually the Big Ten and the SEC taking over football. The heist.
Well done,
Matt. The heist of the century. It's one of those. Can you imagine Sankey? With Petiti, and Kevin Warren is still around there going around. They're like, all right, boys, this is what we're going to do. In 2010, you guys, Big Ten, you go and grab Nebraska, then go and get Maryland and Rutgers. And then you know what? We'll sweep under Oklahoma and Texas right from the Big 12. And then you guys, in response, air quotes, you guys go and get USC and UCLA. That's how we'll take football. That's the heist of the century right now. And the ACC made a deal a couple of days ago that has basically put a timestamp on
when the big Pangea happens.
Yes, essentially.
That's
so
what this is.
The new deal for the ACC with Clemson and Florida State, which are really just the two brands and two teams, along with Miami, that are keeping the ACC alive. They, went to court. They wanted to get out of the ACC. The ACC said, no, we're going to fight you. Now they've kind of settled on the fact that there will be new revenue agreements, that 40% of the revenue that the ACC makes from their TV deals will go to the entirety of the league. The 60% will then be kind of a market share revenue value, and the teams who produce the best, results and markets and ratings will get a bigger slice of that pie than the other teams who don't. We talked about it a little bit with Brandon Vogel, and Brandon said something that really stuck with me. And this is why I love interviewing Brandon, because he's so smart and he kind of drops these little tidbits that it gets you thinking afterwards. He said, you know what? This model of the 40-60 of splitting up revenue in this way, it's not the sign of a healthy league. I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. When you think about it that way, the fact that they have to
completely changed their system in order to cater to certain teams just so they can't leave for not 20 years, not 30 years, but just for 6 years. Just 6 years.
In grown-up time, that goes by fast. Trust me.
Dude, 2030.
I was just 27.
We're closer to 2020 than we're closer to 2030 than we are 2020.
Thank God.
Or no, we're actually not. We're a couple ways away from that. I'm not a math guy. I'm a radio guy. But
we're journalism degree people. We don't know math.
We're inching, like 2030 is right around the corner. And the ACC's got to bend over backwards and do these things just so they can stick around for 5 years. Mm-hmm. It's over.
In fact,
it's done.
I've already penciled in that I will be hosting on a random summer day in 2030 when this all goes down, because this always seems to happen when I've hosted a show. This happened a couple of years ago with the Pac-12 schools, or maybe last year. I don't know. All these years run together. When in 2010, when all these things happen, I always seem to be on the radio. So I was like, all right, July 2030, got it.
I mean, this is it. I mean, when 2030 happens and that buyout clause for Clemson and Florida State decreases significantly.
And that is if the asteroid doesn't take us out first.
That's a good point. And it makes it way financially easier for Florida State and Clemson to get out of the ACC. That's it. That's all she wrote. Done and dusted. We're good to go. Like Florida State, Clemson, they'll join the SEC, or maybe even, the Big Ten could maybe grab Clemson. Miami will probably go to the SEC. Then Notre Dame will probably have to be forced to join this tier of conferences. Then you might get the combination of the SEC and the Big Ten, and then we'll have to start doing tiers and kicking teams out and ranking teams and making a relegation system. It's not all going to happen in 2030.
And when the dust settles, you're going to be like, you know what? I'm just going to go on YouTube and watch a game from 2000.
I mean,
it doesn't matter who's playing.
And then it's eventually we're just going to start talking about the next convo after all that happens is, all right, let's take the school out of the sport, let's just do that. And then you just start talking about what are you associated to? I mean, this is kind of what the ACC has done. This is what they had to settle to. You've marked yourself a date for when this is all going to happen, when this is all going to combine, and when
that's when we start covering basketball, when they create that. And then we just do our shows on stuff like that, other random sports.
Yeah.
Once they've said,
I mean, every radio host, I'm sure, can say at some point that they said in like 2021 or 2022 that this is where we're going. It's a little funny. It was a dirty little secret, but the writing was on the wall that this is where we're heading. That we were going to go to a bigger AFC NFC model than the NFL. That
You've been warned for 15 years
that we were heading this way. That when NIL, I don't think people knew that this is where we're going to go when NIL, first happened. And maybe that's a great question for our next guest, Stephen M. Sipple.
To be honest, every question's a great question for him.
But I mean, it's we're on that trajectory, and we kind of knew we were heading that way. You kind of knew we were heading down that dark road. But man, when the ACC and Florida State and Clemson, when they came to that litigation agreement, that kind of set in. That kind of, all right, this is where we're going. 2033.
It's happening.
You're going to have the Big Ten, and you're going to have the SEC, and you're going to have joint games, and you're going to have guaranteed playoff spots for both conferences.
It's going to be like in those movies where they made a boat for survivors, and they had to go get, I think that was 2012. So these schools are going to end up on the boat. The other ones are just going to drown and die.
And now the next big questions. So we've kind of answered that a little bit now, right? That's always been the top question. Is this where we're going? Are we going toward?
We're going there.
Fully toward the NFL model. I think what the ACC has done, and Brandon kind of called it, it's an unhealthy thing that sets up, unless they can absolutely do something incredible and get, turn the ship around completely, get some sort of donor.
We all have faith
even know
in
what
them.
They could do.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, it's kind of shot to where.
Hey, at least the video game got brought back.
The next question, though, is, or the next conversations of what happens after this will be what is the system? What is the rank? Like, what are the tiers? How does that work? How do we sustain or even keep mid-major programs? How do we keep the FCS? Or is it just a foregone conclusion? We're done. We're dusted. We're going to limit these amount of teams.
Or would mass amounts of fans be like, no, I'm not watching this and take a stand?
And then the next
Probably
question
not,
is
but like
that,
you said, maybe.
The next question is too, and that's a good point too.
The fans do control with the money.
That is a great point.
To an extent.
It is going to be interesting what the viewership numbers do. I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't think of that. That was a great point.
You're going to watch Ohio State and Penn State? No, I hate everybody.
Yeah. I mean, there are going to be people who have a lot of angst.
Aerial Americas in New Mexico.
But another thing, too, though, the next question, the next discussion, the next predictions we'll have is where do the schools fall in all of this? How is it still the University of South Carolina? Is it still the University of Nebraska? Is it still those teams? Or is it just are these guys still students? Or is it just, hey.
They are students of football.
That's the thing. That's where we go. Nope. You know what? Actually, the athletic department is a whole separate factor of this. And it's not
a private
It's
entity.
Related to the school, but the athletes aren't necessarily students. They don't necessarily go to class. They don't do that. That's the next step, right? Yeah. And then you have
we just watched Miss Rachel for a half hour and call it good.
Yeah. Then you have that moral argument of, well, then what not all these guys make the NFL. Not all these guys make the pros. They still have to go and get. But, another tricky thing, too, of the whole idea of, well, they got to get a degree and they got to get a job and they got to secure their future. Well, there are more and more jobs in football than ever. We keep seeing the extension of athletic departments and football programs and coaches and, even broadcasting, GMs and scouting departments. Like, it is more viable now more than ever for football players to be like, yeah, I'm going to get a degree in this, but you know what? I want to be a coach, or I want to be a GA, or hey, I want to go into scouting, or hey, I want to stick around.
I'm a ball knower. I want to work in ball.
So that's the next step. What happens to the student part of this all? And I think that you can just kind of boldly say, you know what? It won't be. It'll be interesting to see what maybe other solutions and provisions and whatnot they add to it. But it is.
But we're trying to tell you is always expect the worst, because that's probably where we're going.
Those are the next questions. But you know what? Now you know. After this ACC deal, now you know.
Can't get your heart broken if you have low expectations all the time.
It's 2030. And we'll see what happens next year with the college football playoff and how the SEC and the Big Ten and how they control it and the decisions they make, because we're still waiting on that too. And we're still waiting on what the general college football playoff is going to look for next year. So there's a lot of things to decide, but I just wanted to really hit on that quickly.
I like that deal. I don't like it.
That ACC deal, man, like that's
the clock started. Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time.
And trust me, there'll be stuff that happens way before 2030 because we need the content in the summer and it always delivers.
Oh,
not as much last year, so expect something this year.
Yeah, get ready for training camp.
Hey!
Hey, get ready for the king, the #1 overall seed.
Jerry Lawler?
The top guy. The dude who's best for business, Mr. Steven M. Sipple, joining us next year on Gary and Matt on 1620 The Zone. This is one hell of an intro. A classy intro for the classiest man in all of Lincoln radio. We welcome in our dear friend, our number one seed, our belle of the ball, Mr. Stephen M. Sipple. Steve, Sip, how are you doing, my man?
I don't know what to say. You introduced me with a Little River Band.
Yeah, it's a banger.
It is a banger. You're a banger. We're all bangers.
We can all reminisce.
Yeah, we'll go dancing in the dark, walking through the park and reminiscing.
Well, do you know who's
I've done all of them.
Do you know who's walking through the dark right now? It's Fred Hoiberg and the Nebraska basketball program as they're trying to find their way to the NCAA tournament. Sip, is like, do you even think there's a shot they can run the table and do it, or are you kind of just calling the season an end?
What now, Matt? I don't think they have to run the table.
Sure,
I mean,
sure.
I think if they beat Iowa and win, if they beat Iowa and won a couple in the Big Ten tournament, they'd be sort of back in that conversation. Maybe you have to win 3.
So yeah, that's the combo, right? Is it 2 or 3? You think?
Right. I don't know. I don't know,
yeah.
but it's conceivable.
It is.
I've said it about this team a lot. Their floor is really low.
Yeah.
It is. It's kind of, it's disconcerting how low the floor is. Their ceiling's pretty high too. So they're an odd team. It's kind of exhausting to follow.
Yeah.
But I would not put it past them to beat Iowa and then win a couple, and then you're kind of back in this. Okay, now what? Kind of conversation.
Does it? What concerns you more about this program and Fred Hoiberg, maybe in particular? Is it the fact that this team isn't just? You can look at them and say, they're just not that talented, Steve, right? Like they just don't. They have Bryce Williams, who's a dude, and then they have Juwan Gary, who's a number 2. But after that, it's not all that great. Or is it more concerning of the fact that in January, Fred Hoiberg was talking about effort and identity, and now we're in March and he's still talking about the same thing? What's more concerning, the talent or the fact the message isn't getting through?
The message. I don't mind the talent. I like the team.
Okay.
I like the size, and it's the type of team I like.
Yeah.
And I love Bryce. I love his game. And I like Gary. I love his game.
Sure.
So I think it's more, I don't know, that whole message discussion's, it's complicated more so than ever in college athletics because of the way you put teams together.
Sure.
I think my guess is you'll see more of this type of thing. If you had guys I grew up at a time, I was following Nebraska basketball at a time where you got to know guys over a period of 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
And the fans got to know them. So naturally the coach could probably get through to a Dave Hoppen, pretty well when he was in his 3rd year in the program, then his 4th year in the program. Life's changed a lot. So there's a lot. Matt, to be honest, it's not really those 2 things that concern me.
What is it?
And it's not even the thing that concerns me the most, and I rail about it, and I know people tire of it. It's just the exceedingly low expectations. Yeah. Like it's just and that's nothing to do with Fred. Fred has nothing to do with that. I believe that the expectations have started to drag the program back. The lack of expectation, where we do this thing where, oh my God, if they just win a game in the tournament, oh wow, big. Why is that? That is a discussion that drives me berserk.
I know.
I get it, and I know what people are thinking right now. Well, Steph, come on, that'd be the first step. Yeah, but it's always presented as this sort of this end all be all. Like,
sure.
No, everybody wins in the tournament. Like it shouldn't be that big of a deal. So, just an exceedingly low expectation.
Let's talk about this because this is a fascinating discussion. And like you're the man to have it with. I feel like and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like there's this ideology in college sports that you can only be a football school or you can only be a basketball school, right? You only get like one sport. Yet we've seen, especially this season, teams like Alabama, right? Teams like Michigan.
Look at Florida, 06-07.
Yeah, we've seen, and through the history, Texas have had really, really good basketball teams. Oklahoma's had really, really good basketball teams. We've seen teams be able to do both, be elite at football and be elite at basketball. What is holding Nebraska back from that? Why is it that those teams consistently, look at Auburn. Auburn's a football school. They're the best damn team in the country. Why is it that those teams can have both, yet we have this idea and expectation that Nebraska, because it's such a football school, can't have elite success as a basketball school?
There's no, first of all, that conversation has been over in my head for years. Maybe I was in my 20s when I looked at it that way. You can have both. It's proven over many years in many schools. The only thing right now, and I want to be fair, I want to be fair to Fred. I want to be fair to the Nebraska basketball program. The only thing that you can concoct as a kind of an excuse is the NIL piece, the NIL component. Nebraska's probably not where it needs to be, close enough probably that it shouldn't be a major excuse. But, they're not where Creighton is, for instance. That there's a Maryland booster that's giving $10 million to Maryland's NIL for basketball, and that's a problem for Nebraska. I mean, Maryland's in a beautiful recruiting area. It's fertile.
True.
Fertile. I mean, Washington D.C. area. So you could, if I were Dan and Troy Dannon, the AD, I'd be looking at that, and if I were Fred, I'd be looking at that and maybe thinking general manager. Maybe basketball needs a general manager, to help foster that. I guess if you're just getting down to it, to get more money.
Yeah.
If Nebraska, and I don't mind saying it to you guys on the radio, I know what the situation is. They're about a $2.7 million, $3 million NIL operation for basketball. Maybe if that was 5 to 6, we'd have a shot at a different kind of player. So that would be the thing. Otherwise, the answer to your question is this: nothing hinders Nebraska. Nothing should drag them back. So, I've been frustrated for 53 years. Okay, this is not a new conversation.
I know.
With me. I've been following the program since I was 6 or 7. And I'd say following it more closely than football. I think a lot of the conversation is insane. That it's insanity that we have these incredibly low expectations for that program.
So before we will get into football, but this is a great combo here. And you mentioned the NIL budget and all that, but when you look at Nebraska just from the outside view, right? You got a beautiful stadium, you got a fan base that cares a lot, that comes to the games, and you have some pretty damn good facilities. You have a brand, like Nebraska is a brand. If Fred Hoiberg, no matter how it happens, ends up not being the coach of the team next year, is Nebraska, do you think, a attractive job? Or are the lacking funds of the NIL just too much for a coach who you could consider a top guy be willing to take this job?
Now, first of all, I don't feel all that comfortable. I think Fred's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah,
sure.
I don't think they would make a move on him now. If they don't make the Big Ten tournament, I don't know. These conversations are interesting. If Troy Dannon said to Fred, the athletic director, said to Fred Hoiberg, you need to make the Big Ten tournament, okay? You need to make this. I would not be offended by that as an outsider looking in and evaluating it. This is year 6. When I talk about expectations and low expectations, I'm talking about people who come at me with simple, you're insane if you think that they should make a move on Fred. If you even consider the notion, it's insanity. No, it's not. I don't think they should make the move, but it's not insane to have the conversation when you're talking about if the coach, if they don't make the NCAA tournament, when you're talking about a coach who's been here for 6 years and has not won a game in the NCAA tournament, there's only one program in America where that coach would retain his job, and we're talking about it.
Yeah,
there's one program in America where the expectations are that low, where a coach could make it 6 years with one NCAA tournament appearance and no wins. I don't think there's another program that there might be an outlier somewhere. I doubt it.
Well, the funny thing is that I probably root for the outlier, which is Northwestern. But funny enough, they've been able to win those games actually. So it's like that's not even discussion.
Well, they've won in the tournament.
Yeah, 3 times, and and they have talk about an NIL budget that doesn't exist.
Right?
And talk about a brand that isn't there. I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it really is just one of those things, Sip, where it's such an interesting conversation because it doesn't just hover around the fact of Fred isn't getting those results. It's the expectations are at the floor. They're at the bottom. And so it's easy for him to keep that job. And I think you make great points about it. Okay, so let's talk about football now. I had this discussion a little bit with Gary earlier in the week. By the way, Steve Sipple of HuskerOnline.com joining us here on the Gary and Matt Show. Gary out announcing Omaha's Summit League tournament. So I had the discussion with Gary a little bit before the Addison Williams, Mike Ekeler, and Terry Braden press conference. That when you had Carl Pelini and Bo Pelini and Mike Ekeler, it was an interesting staff because those 3 guys were very online with one another. Those were 3 dudes who were very fired up. They brought the juice every day, and their passion and their energy kind of was the mark of that team, right? Like that was the identity of that team. You look at this coaching staff, you don't really have that alignment. You don't have that stack of guys who have similar personalities. It's a little bit different across the board. Do you think having those different personalities is a negative or maybe even positive impact on the team and on the coaching staff?
Wow. I mean, I've been saying that the hires of Holgorsen and Ekeler are gigantic, so in a positive way. I think it will have an incredible. It's already had a big impact on the offense with Holgorsen. Now it's Holgorsen and Ekeler are different sort of guys in some way. Now I think of Ekeler a little bit different, I think, than you and a lot of people.
Sure.
Yeah, there's the element of, everybody talks about his energy and all that. I know Mike really well, and that's a part of him. But kids don't care about that. They want to know what you know.
Yeah.
And how you can help them and get results. And that's the part of Mike that I appreciate more than the fiery part. That's an important component to Mike. But Ekeler's a serious dude.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not fun time all the time now, and that's what I appreciate him. And I think he and Holgorsen, I like that about Holgorsen too. Holgorsen's very bottom line oriented, right? That's what we've picked up. I mean, he doesn't mince words. It's not, he's gonna have a different sort of way he operates. It's gonna get to the bottom line faster. He's not gonna try to appease people. And Ekeler will be like that too. So, and I don't know. I mean, Ekeler and the Pellinis, it wasn't perfect. I mean, it wasn't, and that's why Mike left. He went to Indiana. So it was, and I guess on the surface you would say, yeah, they're kind of similar, but in some ways they aren't similar.
Well, I think my biggest takeaway, and that was the first time I've ever been at a presser with Mike Ekeler. I know that you've been at plenty. It was incredible to see him because you hear about, the nickname Crash and the special teams coordinator and him having all this energy. But he borders that line of being sharp and knowledgeable and smart, but also being that kind of intimidating, high-energy coach so well. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Yeah, I would.
I mean,
I like him. Here's what I like about Ekeler at this point in his life. He's 53, and now he has a lot of results.
Yeah.
So it's not just, he's Crash. He's the fun guy. He has a big vertical leap on the sideline. Yeah, all that is nice. But what I like is that Tennessee averaged 16.5 yards per punt return.
Yeah.
And led the SEC, or was second in the SEC in punt returns for 4 years. And I like that he has a system that they don't get punts blocked. He had one punt blocked in 4 years. I like that part of Mike now. That he's 53. I've known him for so long, and for so long the conversation was always, he's a crazy guy. He ran from Waverly to Lincoln, all that. Or no, actually Ashland to Lincoln. I actually had to get picked up, but I just he's crazy. Evolved he's evolved. He's evolved into one of the best special teams coordinators in America, and then he's also pretty fiery.
Yeah. What do you think of Terry Braden's energy?
It's good. I mean, I like it. It was interesting just to he and Eckler were back to back, and they kind of brought a similar personality to the podium. And here's what it is. I mean, that's who he is.
Yeah.
It doesn't make Addison Williams any less coach that he went to the podium with a much different vibe. Like he was more dialed back, more cerebral. That it all comes down to just being who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's who Braden is, that's beautiful. And I think it came through that he's that guy. But it's okay that you're not that guy. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be. You're right.
Yeah, you got to be who you are. I would probably be more. I'd gravitate more actually towards an Addison Williams. I don't need all the fire. But it's just a preference thing. But the bottom line is just be who you are.
Hey, before we let you go, we'll get you out here on this quick little fun question because I know you like baseball. When you think of baseball and you think you're sitting down, it's a breezy day, put you at your favorite park, you're having a beverage of choice. Okay. What beverage do you think of when you're at a ball game? What is the go-to? What do you have in your right hand?
I mean, the big thing I have is a pretzel. First of all, soft pretzel.
Okay.
So whatever goes with that, and I would say Bud Heavy.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yeah. But no light beer for you. You're on the heavies.
Yeah, I like Bud Heavy.
Is that a character thing or a taste thing?
I'd say taste.
Okay.
I'm with you, Sip. I used to love me a Bud Heavy.
Bud Heavy guy.
Yeah, kind of what I came up on. I'm not a huge beer drinker, but
okay,
I like Bud Heavy.
So a pretzel,
but he's a hell
and a Bud Heavy. You know what, Sip? We got to go to a baseball game together. It sounds like one hell of a time. It's a hell of a meal.
Fun.
That would be a good time. How much fun? That would be a little Lincoln Omaha conglomerate baseball game. We'll bring out all the celebrities. Go to a Salt Dogs game, or maybe even take a trip down to Kansas City in August. How about that?
I'd probably. I don't know if we could coordinate all that.
Oh, I can put it together.
I do know y'all be there in August.
We will be there in August.
Yeah, that's true.
So, alrighty,
sounds fun.
Hey. Thanks as always. We're rooting for you in the. You got to win this for us, by the way. We need one of our own to win this.
I'm voting like no one's
Twitter
business.
Tournament. All right, so we're on you. You're our favorite. You're our secretariat. Go win the race.
Get some bots going for me.
We'll do. I'll pay for it. I'll pay for it. Absolutely. All righty. I'll talk to you, Sip. You have a good one.
See you later.
Stephen M. Sipple.
That's a great idea.
Bud Heavy.
I can't have that anymore because then I have a splitting headache.
I did not think Steven Sipple was a Budweiser guy. Like, I don't know what I thought.
When you said Sipple, you said it all.
I don't know what I thought Steve Sipple was. It wasn't Bud Heavy.
Were you expecting like a high noon?
I was
a quirk.
No, I was
a Vizzy.
I was expecting I used to be this type of guy. I used to be this type of guy. I used to be a Labatt Blue guy.
I enjoyed a Falstaff and a Pall Mall.
And then
a Viceroy.
Here's the thing. I was expecting him to go, I used to be Bud Heavy, but now I like those high noons. Those like lower in calorie,
lower sugar.
Exactly. It's good for my health.
That's for tailgate.
I mean, we're talking about a man who wears full body deodorant. I mean, it can
get muggy up here.
Enigma. I mean, the mind of Steven Sipple is always moving. It's always thinking.
Sip's onto something.
He's always onto something. He's never not onto something, which is why he's the best damn radio guest in all of Nebraska.
Vote for him. We understood the assignment. We vote for the people who are good to us.
We need a John
Looking
Walker.
at you, Mike Schaefer.
We need a John Walker, Steven Sipple.
John Walker, yeah.
Final. That's what we need.
Brian Edwards is not part of that, by the way. He would be solid if that was the case in our caller deal, but yeah, the media deal. I like Sip to go far.
I think he's going to win the whole damn thing.
Yeah. He ain't messing around when he's pulling out the Bud Heavies.
He is Auburn. Yeah. He is Auburn, and Mike Schaefer is Duke. Ooh. And I would say that Sip seems more like a White Claw. I don't know. Come on, Vince. We're getting to the point where White Claw is a little bit insulting, at least to some people it is. I think he's more of a
low calorie and low sugar.
Who's the other
things
two?
Matter.
It's Sipple, Schaefer, Mitch Sherman, and who's the other one seed?
Sam? And Sam a one?
He should be a one if he is.
I was just voting because I had to vote on today's deal. I always get excited for this now because there's not a whole lot of things that make me excited in general. But I am excited about Michael's. Okay, here we go. We got today's. You can go vote.
You go vote today.
Michael's Twitter at Michael Severe. You got one seat Sam McEwen against Abby Barmore.
Okay, good matchup.
You got the great Mike Schaefer against Amy Just.
That's a matchup too. These are heavy hitting matchups.
You got Sean Callahan against Aaron Sorensen.
Okay. Oh, that's going to be a tough one.
And
my God, this is. Did you see this?
And my fellow part alum Nick Baugh, part alum. I know. Against the great Jay Moore, our friend.
That is so tough.
That's a tough 2-7. That's a 2-7 that could go 5 games, 7 games.
That is one. That is like a couple years ago when Phoenix played the 8 seed Lakers. And everyone was like, whoever wins this is going to, and it was an 8 seed, whoever wins this is going to win the title.
The Spurs used to be in some battles with 8 seeds. 2-7s always give me PTSD about the 91 Warriors series.
It's a little bit like the young Thunder versus the older Spurs. It's like, you know this is going to be a rough one.
Yeah, they still
going to be a tough one.
Hey, they still haven't won a championship in Oklahoma, okay? And they're not going to win one this year either. Yeah, I said it.
Mike's on it. Sip loves a good margarita. He does love a great margarita, but maybe not at a ball game. Hey, another guy we'll be talking plenty of ball with is coming up next, Mr. Brian Edwards. Giving you your picks for the weekend. Don't go anywhere here on Gary and Matt.
Dollar. Someone who's been making a lot of money recently, and Florida Gators are on top of the world after their awesome win yesterday against Alabama. They actually out-Alabama, which was quite incredible to see yesterday. Mr. Brian Edwards. Brian, how you doing, my man?
Doing great, brother. Thanks for having me. How you doing?
Of course. How's the week been? How have you been doing? How have you been faring?
Good. So 4-0 in college hoops last night.
Awesome.
1-1 in NBA. Lost Portland by a point at Boston. Like 11 deep. I mean, we could. And look, when you're making this big run, you need to be able to survive an injury, survive a night.
Sure.
Key guys get in foul trouble. In a 6-game run, you never know what's going to happen. Injuries, foul trouble, etc. So I feel great about the Gators. And, we only have to play, hopefully 3 games next week. We had to play 4 in the SEC tournament last year. The fact that it's only 3, I like that. You've got the double bye. We're locked into the 2 seed. So, yeah, feeling great about UF for sure.
No, I mean, you guys, like I said, when and you know this, the NBA championship is about superstars. The NCAA championship is about depth. You got it. And you got a lot of great length and athleticism there. So you got a legit team and one hell of a ticket you got from December. Hey, we'll get back to college basketball in a second, but big card this week for the UFC 313, stacked, honestly. Pereira, Ankalaev is going to be a good one. Gaethje, Rafael Fiziev will be an awesome striking battle. You got Jalen Turner, who's a bit of an underdog right now, ranked, fighting Ignacio, and then you got Lemos versus Lucindo, and then I will pay to watch King Gring fight any day of the week. He's the opener on the main card. Brian, you've been pretty sharp with your UFC picks. What are you looking for in this pretty good UFC 313?
Yeah, so in the main event, I'm going with Alex Pereira. Cormier was talking on his pod the other week about how Pereira was like over in Australia and, maybe not focused on his camp, etc.
I saw that.
I think he's fine. Yeah. I mean, look, we got a cheap price on him here. And look, Ankalaev is dealing with Ramadan, so, he has to fast.
Good point.
When the sun's out, and he's not going to do that this week. I guess the in the religion you can make up for it after Ramadan.
Oh,
so he's going to skip it this week for his weight cut. But that can't be a great thing in your prep.
No.
So anywho, I just think Pereira's better anyway. He's won 5 in a row. He's only lost once in the UFC, and that was a fight he was winning against Stylebender until Adesanya knocked him out. But that's his only blemish on his resume. So I love Pereira. That's my favorite. But I'm also going with Gaethje, plus 135. I mean, I'm not risking a ton here.
Sure.
Obviously, he's off a brutal knockout loss, but he's had almost a year, and he took 6 months off where he didn't have any contact at all.
He needed that too.
So I think his head's clear. And so, he's fighting Fiziev, who's coming off the torn ACL, who he already beat and really put it on him pretty good. And Fiziev fought once since then, and he lost and tore his ACL, and he's on 14 days notice and had to fly around the world. He's a big lightweight. I would imagine he's having a pretty tough weight cut, it would be my guess. But and then I like Jalen Turner, whose kryptonite is wrestlers, and Bahamondes is going to strike with him. And in a kickboxing match, I'll take Jalen Turner against just about anybody. Yeah. So give me Turner at plus 110.
I love that Turner pick. I'm actually surprised that he's an underdog here because his length and that jab, when he gets hitting on that jab, he's in kickboxing. That's where his style is going to be. Hey, let's go back to college basketball here. One team that's having one hell of a season who maybe, it'd be nice if they won their conference tournament, especially for the bubble teams, but we'll see. They might have done enough already to be an at-large bid, but UC San Diego is taking on Long Beach State tonight. Where do you have there?
Yeah, I hate laying big numbers, but I'll do it in this case because UC San Diego has earned my trust. It was 24 at last look, or maybe even 23.5. So UC San Diego is 26-4 straight up. They're the best against the spread team in the country, 23-5 ATS. They've won 11 in a row, both straight up and against the spread. They've won by margins of 45-39, 25-20, and 25 in their last 5 home games. They've covered 11 in a row as a double-digit favorite. They've won by 24 or more 11 times, and they already beat Long Beach by 26 on the road. Long Beach has lost 13 games in a row, haven't tasted victory since January 11th. So, and also they've lost by 31 at UC Santa Barbara, San Francisco, by 43 at Gonzaga, by 23 against UNC Greensboro in Vegas, by 26 against UTEP in Vegas. And so I'll lay the big number, but I think you can go first half with the Tritons and maybe even team total over around 82 if you want.
Okay.
If you want to get aggressive, but I'm probably just going to play it minus 23.5, 24.
Hey, every weekend in the SEC has been a great weekend with how just, talented these teams have been. And you got another great one. You got Kentucky at Missouri. Missouri did suffer a loss yesterday against Oklahoma, and that was a really big win for Oklahoma just in terms of the bubble. But then you got the main event, Alabama at Auburn. Auburn on the road earlier in the year was able to take down the Crimson Tide. Just what are some of your lines for that and some nice matchups you're looking for?
Yeah, I made Auburn 6.5, but I made these lines before yesterday's results. Okay. I'd probably take Auburn up to 7. I think they'll probably be a little higher than that, actually. Okay. I made Missouri 6 at home to Kentucky. I see KenPom has got it at 4. If Mizzou's 5 or less, I'll be on Mizzou. They've been fantastic at home. I made Georgia 4 against Vandy. They might be a little more than that.
Okay.
I made Florida 13 to Ole Miss. They might not be quite that high. We'll see tomorrow.
Sure.
I made Tennessee 15 at home to South Carolina. South Carolina's played good at home recently, but they're terrible on the road. And we'll see on Arkansas if they're going to get Fierro back. They're at home to Mississippi State. I made Arkansas 4 if Fierro's out. I made him 5.5 if he's back, but I'm pretty high on Arkansas in that spot. I doubt they'll be that high. If they're like 2.5 or fewer, I might be on the Razorbacks.
Okay.
And I'll throw a couple other ones at you. KenPom's projection for Wake Forest at home to Georgia Tech is -6. If that's the case, I'll be all over Georgia Tech +6. In fact, I think they've got a great shot at winning that game.
Outright.
Georgia Tech's playing really good basketball right now.
Yeah.
They've won 3 in a row, both straight up and against the spread, and they've won 5 of their last 6. And Wake Forest is really in the tank right now, not playing very good ball. Let's see, they've lost 3 of 4 and failed to cover in 4 in a row. So I would like Georgia Tech. I would probably like them as much, +4 or better, and maybe a little baby taste of the money line as well.
I like that a lot because, you saw that. I don't know if you're watching that Wake Duke game, but it was hard to like anything that Wake was doing there. And I know that Duke has been doing that to everybody in the ACC, having an average margin of victory, I think of like 33, which is crazy over the last 7 games. But you're right, Tech, the ACC is weak this year. And so you always have to take that in consideration, but Tech playing some of their best basketball down the stretch. So I out of your picks, I think I might go with that one. Got to see what the line is, but I've been riding high on your picks. You've been making me a lot of money. You've been making us a lot of money. Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider. Hard to find anyone better on the lines. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian.
Thanks, man. Glad to hear it. Y'all have a great weekend.
Yes, you too. Man, that guy's paid for some of my furniture. It's paid for some decorations.
Does he know this?
Paid for. Oh, I tell him every time. Okay. Everybody knows. Okay. I'm a ride or die Brian Edwards guy. Okay? Now I don't gamble probably as much or the amount of money that Mr. Edwards does.
Well, that's because he's a professional.
Yes.
But we learn from him
right now. Eggs are going up. And some of these picks have been paying for those organic $8.50, grass-fed chickens.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. It's been a good time.
Only grass I'm buying doesn't have anything to do with chicken.
So tomorrow, look, tonight our eyes are all going to be glued onto the screen as Omaha takes on the Kansas City Kangaroos tonight in the Summit League tournament. 3 wins away. Omaha is 3 wins away from their first ever NCAA tournament.
I think Kangaroos put those hand warmers in their pouch. Football players just put them in there.
Without a doubt. And then you have Nebraska women's basketball playing Illinois tonight as they're trying to lock themselves in the NCAA tournament. Hey, tomorrow, Gary will be in for a little bit. Won't be for the full show. He'll be in for a couple segments.
You have to tune in.
We'll have to tune in to find out. And then we'll be joined by Mr. Caleb Henry, who'll be co-hosting with me. So it'll be a good time.
Caleb. Hi, Caleb.
It's a good time. Hey, from me, from Jimmy, from Gary, thank you so much for listening to Gary and Matt. The Crossover and the Connor Happer Show are coming up next.